Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. Myriad worlds, steals food, and Queen Chang's son falls in love. Chapter 61. Please ask the host to open another 8 acres of orchard in reality and claim full property rights of the orchard. The procedures are legal. The day the orchard is built is the time to upgrade the system. Hearing this prompt, Du couldn't help but his eyes sparkled. The system has been upgraded. This made him so excited. If Mr. Shu and Mr. Hu weren't next to him, he couldn't help but jump up. I thought to myself, so that's it. System upgrades are linked to the wealth I have. If I have a wealth of more than 1 billion, I will upgrade for the first time. Then when my wealth exceeds 10 billion, will I be able to upgrade for the next time? System. Ding, the host understands correctly. The upgrade conditions of this system are related to the wealth status of the host and the power to influence. Conditions for next level upgrade. It requires a wealth of more than 10 billion, and in reality owns more than 16 acres of orchards. Hearing the affirmative reply from the system, Du felt excited and thought to himself, fortunately, I sold a Z and Ganoderma lucidum today, otherwise I don't know when I would be able to upgrade quickly. If I had followed my original idea, the 600 million would have been enough. I wouldn't want to sell anything anymore for a long time in the future. It doesn't look like it's going to work. The plan can't keep up with the changes. If it's time to make changes, then let's start with Mr. Hu and Mr. Shu. In the future, I will make this orchard into a place that all the nobles in the entire Sha kingdom aspire to. I will make it a place where they spend a lot of money. It seems that good things can't always be hidden. Du said again at this time, old people, it's getting late, and I don't have that many rooms here. It would be no problem if it was just you guys, but you bodyguards can't. And the accommodation conditions here are relatively poor, not comparable to those big hotels. I'm not driving you away, I'm mainly afraid that you won't be able to stand the rural conditions here. Mr. Hu laughed and said, actually, the pastoral scenery here is pretty good. When I grow old, I want to find a place like this to retire, which is more comfortable. If the little brother doesn't dislike us, we would like to stay one night. You just need to arrange accommodation for us 3 old guys. As for them, they have their own way to solve it. The bodyguards immediately said, yes, we have a solution. Du nodded and said, since you don't dislike my condition, of course I welcome it. Then they arranged rooms for the 3 elderly people to stay. The house in the orchard was originally built by Grandpa Du. It is a typical small farmhouse with 4 main rooms, which can be arranged just right. But Du was curious about what those bodyguards should do. They couldn't possibly leave. After all, bodyguards had to protect their masters. Just as I was thinking this, after a while, I saw an RV driving up from the bottom of the mountain. After seeing the huge RV, Du couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth and said in his heart, I underestimated the rich people. When a lover travels, he travels with a RV. Several bodyguards took down the tents from the RV and set up several tents outside the small courtyard to protect the small courtyard in the middle. They looked very professional. This made Du couldn't help but secretly spread his hands and said in his heart, come on, I'm still worried about what they will do. It's really easy to eat carrots and worry less. Again, 2 professional chefs came down. After a while, there was a barbecue in the small courtyard. I also took down 2 cases of cold beer from the RV. Du has never seen any beer brands before. They are all foreign brands and I don't recognize them. Fortunately, he didn't know her, otherwise he would have been surprised. He cursed secretly, it's so extravagant. I can't understand the world of rich people. They ate barbecue and drank beer imported from the Chocolate Kingdom, brand West Flatrun. Turbilla's West Flatten No. 12 is one of the most expensive beers in the world. Just 1 pack is $625. Du will probably have a headache after hearing this name. After all, for Sha people, foreign brand names are generally difficult to remember. Tebulas is the name of a monastery. This monastery has been brewing beer since 1838. It only produces 3 kinds of beer in total, among which No. 12 is the most popular. It is called Westivilliter 12, and abroad it is called Westivilliter 12. Our translated Chinese name is Westivilliter 12. This beer is the highest example of Chocolate Kingdom beer in many people's minds. It is also one of the 10 most expensive beers in the world. However, there are many fakes of this beer now. Just like Lafite 1982, you can buy it in any bar, and they are basically fake. This beer can now be purchased on all major websites, including John Dao Dao, for about 100 yuan a bottle, or even dozens of yuan a bottle. But true or false? Guess for yourself. What Do You is drinking now is of course the real thing. A small bottle costs several hundred yuan. While eating barbecue with 3 elderly people, one bottle after another of beer bottomed out. Do you really sighed? This is the life of a rich person. You can go wherever you go with a group of bodyguards and this RV, a chef and a nanny, and you can eat whatever you want anytime, anywhere. This small barbecue meal includes all kinds of seafood and various mountain delicacies. Drinking a cold beer is really relaxing. Anyway, Do You didn't know this beer, so he just wanted to drink it to feel comfortable. And this pile of ingredients, what kind of 5A grade Wagyu tastes just like that in Do You's place? In Do You's words, it's just hype, and it's not as delicious as the meat slaughtered by the old scalper in the village. Of course, this barbecue meal is naturally valuable, and it can always cost tens of thousands of yuan. This barbecue isn't meat, it's all money. But Do You doesn't care, because this may be his normal life in the future. After all, in his several acres of orchard, just picking any apple or pear will cost you 10,000 yuan each, so no one is worse than the other. While he was enjoying his meal, Do You's ears twitched. He stood up and said, "Mr. Shu, Mr. Hu, I'll leave for a moment to take care of something." Mr. Hu asked, "What's going on so late at night?" Do You said, "A few uninvited guests have come, and they don't look very friendly. I'll go take a look." Mr. Hu did not ask why he knew someone was coming, but said, "Not very friendly, what's going on?" Xiao Wang, follow little brother Do You over there and take a look and protect his safety. When a few people came to the foot of the mountain, they saw a few gangsters there, holding gasoline and firewood, preparing to set a fire. Seeing Do You and the others coming over, they didn't panic, and each of them pulled out their machetes, looking very arrogant. When several bodyguards saw this, they stepped forward and took action. But he felt a gust of wind passing by him, and when he looked back, Do You had already rushed into the group of hoodlums with his bare hands. 3 strikes, 5 strikes and 2 strikes knocked all these gangsters to the ground. This surprised several bodyguards. You must know that they are not ordinary bodyguards. They are all retired soldiers from the field army. 2 of the bodyguards, 230, are retired from the special forces. Naturally, they didn't pay attention to the group of gangsters in front of them. But they didn't expect that Do You's skills were so powerful. And it was even more powerful than them, which made them secretly frightened. After a while, Do You and the bodyguards came back, dragging a few dead dogs back with them. Several of the men sent by Wang Delong had been beaten with bruises and swollen faces. Hu Weimin just glanced at it and didn't care. Instead, he asked Do You with concern, "Little brother, what's going on? These people have a grudge against you. Are they here to cause trouble?" Do You sat down, picked up another skewer of barbecue, took a bite and said, "It's not true that you have any grudge against me, but it's true that you are looking for trouble. These are the men of Delong, the famous gangster in the town. Of course, Wang Delong also does things for people. It is said that there is a man named Sun Shao in the county. The eldest son of the county prince is interested in my orchard and wants to buy it and sell it by force. I want to buy my orchard for 5 million. Hearing this, Shu Dashan and Hu Weimin couldn't help but frown. If you want to buy this orchard for 5 million, then you are not buying and selling by force. An apple or a pear in this orchard can be sold for 10,000, and the fruit from this tree can be sold for tens of millions. How much are these acres of orchards worth? Spending 5 million to buy Do You's orchard is more than just buying and selling by force, it's simply plundering. It is unreasonable that a small county town should be so lawless." They both looked at each other, with a hint of smile in their eyes. If they catch up with this matter, they must take action. They were worried about how to get closer to Do You, but now it's better. Someone came to their door. Now they all want to say something to that young master son. Well done. Of course, although you did a great job, I still have to deal with you. Who asked you to offend the people you shouldn't offend? At this time, their bodyguard walked up to them and whispered softly, "Boss, this young man is very skilled, very strong." The 2 of them were a little surprised. How strong does it mean to be strong? Is it stronger than you? The two bodyguards nodded. At least they are no worse than us. This surprised both Huimin and Shu Dashan. Their bodyguard knew very well that he was a retired Special Forces king. This Du Yu is young, but his skills are even more powerful than these two people. He is indeed an expert. On the surface, Du Yu was calm, looking calm and calm. This made Shu Dashan and Huimin nod secretly. They were indeed masters outside the world and masters hidden in the world. To be so calm when encountering this kind of thing, I guess there is a way to deal with it. Although the two of them believed that Du Yu had a way to solve this matter, they were ready to take action first. After all, this is a good opportunity to please Du Yu and get closer to each other, and they will not give up. But how did they know that Du Yu didn't have a way to deal with people like Sun Shao who used institutional power yet? His calmness were deliberately done for the two of them to see. He believed that the more he behaved like this, the more the two of them would take the initiative to help. The few people were chatting and laughing, but no one paid attention to the gangsters who were beaten and wailing on the ground. The follow-up of these people will naturally be handled by some bodyguards. They are just a few minions, so no one needs to care. Early the next morning, Du Yu was practicing boxing in the yard. Shu Dashan came over to practice Tai Chi, and then asked, "Little brother, when are you going to go into the mountain?" This was related to his wife's life and death, so he was inevitably a little anxious. Du Yu said with a smile while punching, "Mr. Shu, don't be in a hurry. As for all spiritual things, there is a time to pick them. Do you know why Xian Ganoderma has the word Xian in front of it? What does purple mean?" Shu Dashan was slightly stunned when he heard this, and showed a curious look, and asked, "I don't know about this. There is no record of this in the ancient books I found. Can you please give me some advice, little brother?" Du Yu said, "There is a saying called purple chi coming from the east. How come you are so angry? The sun rises in the east. When the first ray of sunlight comes from the east in the morning, it will bring the aura of purple. Ganoderma absorbs this wisp of purple energy, and over time, it changes its own essence. This kind of Ganoderma is called purple Yun Ganoderma. So this time is when Xian Ganoderma absorbs purple energy, and it is not the best time to pick Ganoderma. It needs to be picked after 10 o'clock and close to noon. Tuan is the most effective." After hearing this, Shu Dashan and Huimin, who came over to work out together, were all amazed. So that's it. Of course, what Du Yu said was all lies. However, this kind of deception is necessary, because the more ritualistic it is, the more people will value it. It will make people cherish it more and think it is valuable when they get it. The sense of mystery and ritual often affects the status of a thing in people's hearts. Du Yu uses this sense of ritual to increase the mystery and value of Xian Ganoderma. After all, someone spent 680 million to buy something, and you picked it back casually. Doesn't that seem too cheap? Xian Ganoderma is said to be so mysterious, and the source of its medicinal effects is said to be so illusory. Then people who come to ask for medicine will subconsciously think that this thing is too precious before they come, and Du Yu can only handle them. Therefore, the ancients also understood psychology. While he was talking, there was a loud noise outside. A forestry bureau car stopped at the entrance of Du Yu's orchard, and several people in uniform jumped out. Then he shouted there, "Who is the owner of this orchard?" Du Yu walked forward unhurriedly and said, "I am, what can I do?" The other party said, "We received a report. You are planting illegally here, and we are here to enforce the law. The fruit trees you planted are illegal, we will cut them all down and impose penalties." When Du Yu heard this, he said calmly, "My orchard has legal procedures." The other party snorted and replied, "I didn't say your orchard is illegal, I said the fruit trees you planted are illegal. Have you applied to us for the fruit trees you planted?" When Du Yu heard this, he sneered and said, "What kind of fruit trees should I plant in my legal orchard? Do I need to inform you? Then if a farmer grows wheat in his field, does he have to inform the relevant departments?" The other party yelled, "Stop playing tricks on me here. If Nizi says you are illegal, then it is illegal. I'm here to enforce the law today." Du Yu said with a smile, "It's okay if you said no so early, so why bother trying to reason with me right away? Just say you're unreasonable. Don't think that I don't know why you are here. Master Sun asked you to come, right? Then don't use any pretense to chop down my tree, right? Just chop it down. I do not mind, but you go back and tell Mr. Sun that all the trees in my orchard have been cut down. If I don't plant a single fruit tree in the future, I won't make a penny, and I won't sell the fruit medicine to him." The other party sneered nonchalantly and said, "As long as you know what's going on, you can tell me. Since you know everything, let's talk openly through the opening heaven window, and you can just sell the orchard to Mr. Sun, and nothing will happen. Otherwise, we will grow whatever you sow in the future. Brothers, let's cut down the trees." Those people picked up electric saws one after another, and the sound of electric saws roared. "Do you didn't care?" He made a gesture of invitation and said, "Then do it, please." Then he took out his mobile phone and smiled at these people and said, "I will do a live broadcast. Look at how the gentlemen in our county enforce the law." Everyone who was about to take action was stunned. The leader even roared angrily, "How dare you videotape and obstruct law enforcement?" "Do you?" said with a smile, "I'm not obstructing law enforcement. You can chop down trees if you want. I won't stop you. But in my orchard, I can record it if I want, and live broadcast it if I want. I have the right. Your forestry bureau still can't control my freedom of speech." When the leader heard this, he roared at his men, "What are you still looking at? Grab his phone quickly." Hearing this, several of his men wanted to take action. Do you smiled and said, "Oh, I'm going to grab the mobile phone. Come here and grab it." Many viewers in my live broadcast room were watching. They all recorded the screen, and it will be used as evidence in the future, which is proof of your violent law enforcement. You can cut down the fruit trees grown in my legal orchard if you want, and you can snatch my mobile phone if you want. There are thousands of people in the live broadcast room now witnessing it. Let me remind you, your Mr. Sun may be fine. But if you snatch my mobile phone and chop down my tree today, you can decide for yourself whether you can save your skin after the matter is spread on the internet. After saying this, anyone who wanted to take action was paralyzed. Especially the leader, his scalp was numb. In the past, the ignorant farmers in the countryside were frightened by them. They could do whatever they wanted. But today they encountered someone who was not afraid of them. For a moment, they really didn't know what to do and were a little at a loss. Entering the era of self-media, it is really not friendly to them. Whatever they do, there may be cameras around them recording it, so they often cannot do whatever they want. They also know it very well, just as Do You said. If this matter is exposed on the internet, Mr. Sun, as the legitimate son of the county prince, will naturally have nothing to do. But in order to give an explanation to the public, their subordinates will act like scapegoats. It's okay to do something for Mr. Sun to please him, but if they lose their jobs in the public sector, then they will definitely not do it. For a moment, they didn't dare to move. At this time, Shu Dashin and Hu Weimin also came over. Before anyone arrived, the sound came first, sounding like a loud bell. "What are you doing? Lawless. What's illegal about this orchard? All procedures in this orchard are very complete, and the fruit trees planted are also very common fruit trees, and there are no illegal varieties. You came here and wanted to cut down fruit trees without even a reason. Is this how you enforce the law?" The aura of the two people is extraordinary, making people feel like they are big shots at first glance. Especially when the two people were followed by bodyguards. After the leader saw it, he couldn't help but feel like he had kicked an iron plate in his heart. He couldn't help but ask, "Who are you? Why are you meddling in this business?" Hu Weimin said, "Don't worry about what kind of people we are. Just talking about what you did, do you think it is reasonable and legal? Today you try to chop down a branch." When Hu Weimin said this, he was so confident that the other party was shocked. I was thinking, who is this old guy? Why is he so arrogant? Hu Weimin looked back at Shu Dashin with a smile and said, "It's up to me to take care of this matter. If you take action, it will be a cannon to swat the mosquitoes." When Shu Dashin heard this, he nodded and said, "Okay, in your family's territory, it is most appropriate for you to come forward." Hu Weimin turned around, pointed at the leader and said, "Stay there and don't move, I'll make a call. If you dare to touch a branch during this period, you will be responsible for the consequences." After speaking, he picked up the phone and dialed the number. After the call was connected, Hu Weimin smiled and said, "Son. Yes, I have arrived at Dujia town. Well, the scenery here is nice, and your mother and I are both fine. I just encountered something unpleasant. A few of us old guys were guests at Brother Duyu's home, but the local authorities came to demolish Brother Duyu's orchard. I've gone through all the procedures in the orchard, and they are all legal. What should I do? You can figure it out yourself. The leader was stunned when he heard Hu Weimin's call. He didn't know why he felt panicked. Old man, who are you calling? Hu Weimin smiled and said, don't be nervous, I'll call my son. Your son? Old man, who is your son? My son, his name is Tianyu. I earn 330 Niu. This group of people were stunned. Old man, you are so fierce in this operation that you have stunned us all. We thought your son was some big shot, but you told me his name was Iron Bull. Are you kidding me here? You are joking. At this time, Mrs. Hu came over and said with a smile, old man, please stop teasing them. Although they are indiscriminate and a bit hateful, after all, they are not the masterminds of the matter. Hu Weimin spread his hands and said, did I say something wrong? Isn't our son called Tianyu? Mrs. Hu couldn't help but twitch her mouth. You still said. Isn't that the nickname your father gave you at the beginning? It's easy to make a living with a cheap name, it's just feudal thinking. He is also the leader now. Don't mention your nickname again in the future, or I will worry you. Then Mrs. Hu turned around, smiled and said to the group of people, my old man is joking with you. My son's name is Hu Jianye. Dob. You should clarify who he is. Upon hearing this, the leader's feet softened and he knelt down on the ground with a plop. The man was so frightened that he almost cried, thinking in his mind, Mr. Sun, I your ancestor, I've been screwed this time. How could he not know the name Hu Jianye? He was the top leader in the city. My parents are here, and I came over to ransack the house. He suddenly felt that his future was bleak. Originally, I had received a notice from Mr. Sun to do some private work. I thought this was a good opportunity to please the eldest son of the county magistrate, and I was quite happy. But I didn't expect that this county magistrate would please him, but he would offend the prefect. This is because I didn't look at the almanac when I went out. This is unlucky. At this moment, his cell phone rang, and the man quickly answered the call. His heart trembled when he saw the name on the contact person. That was their county magistrate. Immediately afterwards, everyone saw him nodding and bending in front of the phone, constantly breaking out in a cold sweat. Obviously the other party was scolded bloody. After a while, the other party respectfully took the phone with both hands, walked up to Duyu and said, I'm sorry, we did something wrong. Please forgive. This is the phone number of our county magistrate. I hope I can have a few words with you. Duyu answered the phone, and a strange voice came from the other side, Mr. Du, I'm sorry. I feel sorry for Quanzi. He used his official weapon for personal use and caused trouble for you. This transfer of relevant departments is entirely his own doing. I will definitely punish him severely and give you an explanation. Duyu chuckled and said, this is entirely his own doing. Do you think I will believe it? I believe this may actually be his personal doing. But why is he personally able to command people in certain departments? Isn't it your reason? It is precisely because of your long-term connivance that today's results have occurred. Of course, I'm not interested in this. This kind of thing has happened throughout the ages. This one in your family is not an exception. What interests me is that I want to know why he is interested in my orchard. Why is he so interested in my orchard? He is obviously a dandy and he should value money very much, but he is willing to pay more than 10 times the market price to buy it for me. According to the behavior of ordinary dandy boys, shouldn't he be directly taking advantage of others? I have also inquired about your man's usual behavior, and his behavior this time is completely different from his past. It's actually quite a bit like being polite first and then fighting. Use the normal method first. I would rather pay a high price to buy it than use off-market tricks. It wasn't until normal methods failed to buy my orchard quietly that he had no choice but to resort to other tactics. What's interesting is that it is very unreasonable for a sheep to buy me an orchard. He probably doesn't care about the little profit from planting fruit trees. How should I put it? His behavior makes me very confused. I feel that he wants to get my orchard, not for my orchard itself, but for other things. During this process, he didn't seem to want to attract other people's attention. I want to know the answer. Tell me the answer and I can consider forgiving him. This is what Du Yu has been wondering about. Although the system has clearly answered it, it will not be because of the system exposure. Because in one world, only one person will get the system. As long as the person who got the system doesn't tell anyone, no one will know. It was only a matter of 2 days that I got the system, but that Sun Xiao wanted to buy his own orchard, but he had already started it a month ago. He was also very interested in what was so special about the orchard left to him by his grandfather that a dandy wanted to buy it at more than 10 times the price. Throwing the phone back to the other party, Du Yu waved his hand and said, "Go away." As a result, the other party was in a hurry and took the phone, and immediately fled in a hurry with the people, not daring to stay for a moment longer. He was as arrogant when he came, and he was so embarrassed when he ran away. Mr. Hu walked over and said with a smile, "Little brother, where do you want to go with this matter?" Du Yu looked at Mr. Hu and said, "You just have to figure it out. But one thing is, I want to know why Mr. Sun is interested in my orchard. My orchard, in the eyes of outsiders, is actually an ordinary orchard. Let's put it this way, although there are 10,000 fruits in the orchard, I rarely take them out. In the eyes of ordinary people, the value of this orchard is already 500,000 yuan, which is a huge premium. The other party is willing to spend 5 million to buy my orchard. This thing makes me feel very strange. Now I want to know why." Mr. Hu nodded and said, "Okay, no problem. Leave this matter to me, an old guy." Although Du Yu didn't say how to deal with this matter and let them watch, the more he didn't say anything and the more he let them do it, the less he could just let it go. Who knows where Du Yu's bottom line lies? From the perspective of Mr. Hu and Mr. Shu, Du Yu might also be testing them. Only if they handle this matter to the satisfaction of Du Yu and gain Du Yu's approval can they get to know Du Yu more deeply in the future. Therefore, this matter must be handled strictly, quickly and seriously. While they were thinking this, Du Yu had already picked up a bamboo basket on his back, a sickle and a machete in his hands, and started to set off. "Mr. Shu, I'm going up the mountain. Just wait at my house. I'll be back in the afternoon at most. There is also something to trouble the 2 old men. Can you help me contact a construction team? Target the barren hills behind my house and open up orchards for me to fence them in. I'll pay for the construction costs, thank you." Looking at Du Yu's retreating figure, Mr. Shu's secretary, Xiao Wang, asked softly, "Mr. Shu, do you want to send someone to follow him?" Shu Dashan waved his hand, glared at him and said, "I will put this thought aside in the future. You can only make friends with this kind of worldly master with your heart, and don't offend him. If you randomly explore the other party's secrets, you can easily offend the other party to death. We don't have to worry about how many secrets he hides in these mountains. People have been eating in these deep mountains and forests for generations. Do you think you can get a better deal by sending people into the woods? After being discovered by the other party, we will be blacklisted in the future, and we will never be able to obtain those magical spirit medicine from him again. Now, we only need to spend money to buy it from him, and we can get what we want. Problems that can be solved with money are not problems for us. Why take risks and do thankless things when we can get what we want with money and time and effort?" Xiao Wang added, "But Mr. Shu, this will cost hundreds of millions." Shu Dashan looked at him and said, "So what? Is a few 100 million a lot? I wonder how many hundreds of millions we can make in a year. When money reaches a certain level, it becomes just a number, and I don't value it. But when I reach this level, I know that some things cannot be bought simply by spending money. He wants money and I want things. We each get what we need. Is that okay?" He knew what his secretary Xiao Wang meant, so he sent someone to follow Du Yu quietly to see where the other party obtained Xian Ganoderma and wild ginseng. He also knew that Du Yu must have wild ginseng and more Xian Ganoderma. Through yesterday's conversation, he and Hu Weimin both guessed that the Du family has lived here for generations, and people from generation to generation have gone up the mountain and discovered the place where wild ginseng and purple Ganoderma grow. Then they secretly raised them, and each generation only took 1 or 2 plants that had the medicinal effect, and did not care about the benefits. It can only be said that the other family's approach is very smart and full of great wisdom. Because of this, while Shu Dashan admired him in his heart, he also cut off some of his heartwarming thoughts. I don't know how many generations the other family has gone through, but they are still able to keep the secrets of this mountain from outsiders. Jia Ding has his own method. You must know that the officials in ancient times were more brutal and lawless, and they still did not obtain this secret. He doesn't think he can be any better than those ancient gentlemen if he uses force. And the most important thing is that they only need to spend money to get the other party's good things. And when money reaches his level, sometimes it is just a number. In this case, why not use money to exchange the other party for something useful to you? Shu Dashan looked at his secretary again and said, "What happened in the past 2 days, especially about little brother Du Yu, will be kept strictly confidential from me. I'm not allowed to say anything about it. About him, people who should know will always find a way to know, but people who shouldn't know should not let them know, and don't let irrelevant people disturb the little brother's life." He looked at the surrounding orchards and farmyards, and said with a smile, "Such a worldly master often likes this kind of quiet and elegant life. This is the realm. Only when we reach this stage do we sometimes yearn for this leisurely and elegant pastoral life." After sighing, he ordered, "Go. Find the best construction team. Use the fastest time to finish the wasteland in the back mountain for me. According to little brother Du Yu's request, organize them into an orchard. It's best to finish it before he comes back so that you can give him a surprise." "Yes, Mr. Shu." Hu Weimin came over and said with a smile, "Let me handle this. In my territory, I am more familiar with you." Shu Dashan laughed and said, "Go away. You can't do this kind of making friends all by yourself. Hurry up and deal with that Mr. Sun matter. For such a small thing as tidying up the orchard, you have to let me show my face." Hu Weimin smiled and said, "Okay, then let's each perform our duties. Try to give him an explanation before he comes back in the afternoon." Entered the mountains and admired the scenery all the way. This time he went to the mountain just for fun, and planned to go back at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, so that he could show that he was working hard and make the buyers feel that they got great value for money. Of course, he is not here just for fun. If he sees any interesting plants along the way, he will dig them out and transplant them into his own orchard. After all kinds of things that can be planted by buying seeds from the town are relatively common crops. But there are many animals and plants in the deep mountains and old forests that most people in the world have never seen. And it's a new day, and it's time to visit the orchards of the young ladies, letting them feel the malice of opening another world for the first time. The first thing I opened was Queen Changsun's orchard. Sure enough, the orchard of Queen Changsun in Chi 27 inches also became more abundant. Everyone is aware of the benefits of diversified planting. Every new item stolen will bring new surprises. No one knows before the theft that the stolen items will undergo astonishing changes after crossing time, space and world dimensions. This is even more exciting. So this time Du Yu didn't bother to choose, as long as it was something he hadn't stolen before. He clicked on a big tree at random. "Ding, congratulations, you stole the locust tree wild beehive 1. The wild beehive of the Sephora japonica tree mutated over the course of thousands of years and became a 1,000-year hive. In the process, the beehive continued to multiply and expand, and differentiated into 2,000-year-old beehives and 11 hives that are over 500 years old. 46 hives over a century old. The bees in the hive collect honey from hundreds of flowers in ancient and modern time and space, and after brewing for hundreds of years, they brew honey from hundreds of flowers for hundreds of years, honey from thousands of flowers for 500 years, and honey from thousands of flowers. Centennial 100-flower honey is collected from the essence of hundreds of flowers and brewed by countless bees for hundreds of years. It tastes extremely sweet and can be called the ultimate delicacy in the world. It has strong beautifying and nourishing effects, and is extremely effective in treating diabetes. 500 years of thousands of flower nectar. Countless bees collected thousands of rare plant flowers, brewed over 500 years. It is extremely delicious, it can be called transcendent, it is extraordinary. Long-term use can beautify the skin and achieve a youthful appearance. It can nourish the body, strengthen the body, and greatly enhance male function. It can completely cure diabetes and 3 highs. Millenniums of flower nectar. Countless bees collecting the flowers of tens of thousands of spiritual flowers and herbs, brewing it over thousands of years. It's so delicious that it can't be described in words. It can be called a divine product. Long-term use can preserve your youth forever and keep your appearance ageless. It can greatly strengthen your body and strengthen your male function. It can completely cure diabetes, and the 3 highs can greatly enhance your biological immunity. Women can also get a 100-flower body with long-term use, and the whole body will have a floral fragrance, which will greatly increase the favorability of the opposite sex. At the same time, long-term consumption of thousands of flower nectar has a certain probability of triggering special functions and gaining the ability to communicate with insects. Millennium flower honey. The longer it is brewed and fermented, the better the effect will be. Ding! Congratulations on getting one 14-year-old hive, 2,000-year-old hives, 11 hives over 500 years old, and 46 hives over 100 years old. At the same time, we obtained 78,000 kilograms of 100-flower nectar accumulated over 1,400 years, 78,000 kilograms of 100-year-old nectar produced over 500 years, 102,600 kilograms of 500-year-old nectar, 100 kilograms of 100-year-old 5-flower nectar. Among them, 14,000 kilograms of 1,000-flower nectar were obtained every day. 200 kilograms. Ding! Congratulations to your friend, Queen Chang, for receiving one 1,400-year-old beehive, 2,000-year-old beehives, 11 more than 500-year-old beehives, and 46 more than 100-year-old beehives. At the same time, we obtained 78,000 kilograms of 100-flower nectar accumulated over 1,400 years, 12,600 kilograms of 500-year-old nectar, and 600 kilograms of 1,000-flower nectar. Among them, 1,400 kilograms of 1,000-flower nectar were obtained. 200 kilograms. This reminder completely stunned you. I'll go. I stole a tree, how come I also stole the hive and honey? Shouldn't it be plants that are being stolen? But after doubting it, you clapped his hands and understood that what he had just stolen was a locust tree. In the wild, bees build their nests in trees. Do you guess that the locust tree transplanted by Queen Chang probably had a beehive on it? 0. Therefore, when it comes to stealing in the system, there is no rule that you can only steal the fruits produced by plants. But everything on this plant can be stolen. I was really stupid enough to realize this. In fact, didn't this situation already happen when I stole Xiao Fang's grass coral yesterday? He stole a branch from coral. You didn't care at that time. After all, the branches of the grass coral can also be used as medicine. According to this logic, stealing the branches of the grass coral is also a normal harvest, so he did not think about another possibility at the time. Today, the beehive on the locust tree of Queen Chang was stolen, which confirmed one thing, that is, all the plants grown in the orchard, and everything on the plants can be stolen. Fruits, leaves, branches, flowers, roots, and even whole trees, as well as the insects, small animals, and appendages that live on these tree plants. Haha, then this is interesting. This is another unexpected surprise. There are many more possibilities for stealing. For example, today, I actually stole a beehive and got honey. What's even more surprising is that because he has transcended time and been baptized by thousands of years, the hives and honey he obtained also exceeded the limits of life. Have you ever seen a hive that lasted for thousands of years? 100-year-old beehives in the wild are extremely rare, and 1,000-year-old beehives have never been heard of. After all, bees are very fragile creatures, and their honey is a delicacy that both humans and animals want. Therefore, whether in artificial breeding or in nature, beehives will be destroyed for various reasons. In addition, nature has various harsh weather conditions from time to time, including strong winds, heavy rain, hail and heavy snow. Coupled with the continuous harassment of natural enemies for thousands of years, it is not bad for a bee colony to exist for 100 years, but it is impossible to think of 1,000 years. This is the function of the system, which directly caused the hive to span thousands of years before such a mutation occurred. That's not all. The lifespan of bees is very short. The average lifespan of worker bees is only 28 days. The lifespan of the queen bee is only 4 to 5 years, and the drone bee will die after mating. But these bees also directly span the millennium. The queen bees in the 1,000-year hive have lived for thousands of years and are about to become sperm. The queen bee of a century-old hive has also lived for 100 years, and the worker bees have lived for 100 years, so they are called spiritual bees. Therefore, the honey they brew is even more special. Not only that, the honey they brew has been fermented for thousands of years and has a more unique flavor. The most important thing is that during this process, in addition to eating the honey produced by these bees every year, they also leave a small amount of honey for storage. Then when brewing new honey, the new honey will be added to the old honey to enhance the flavor of the old honey and obtain more essences of different flowers. Then these old honeys continue to ferment. This is like making wine and then sealing it, letting time give it more unimaginable changes. During this process, bees continuously add nectar from various flowers. That's why we have 100-flower honey. 100-flower refers to the essence of hundreds of plant flowers, not just 100. Similarly, the century-old 100-flower honey brewed for 100 years is completely different from the one brewed for 200 years. The longer it is, the more flower essences are added to it, the stronger it has been brewed over time, and the stronger it is in terms of taste and nutritional value. The same is true for 500,000 flowers nectar. Not to mention the nectar of thousands of flowers, which contains the essence of tens of thousands of plant flowers. Especially the 1,400-year-old nectar of thousands of flowers already contains the essence of nearly 20,000 various plant flowers, and the effect is unparalleled. The effect of these honeys is also surprising to the extreme. The century-old honey of hundreds of flowers has strong beauty and beauty properties. How powerful is this extremely powerful facial beautification effect? Du Yu has never tried it, so he can't guess. But one thing is that 500 years of thousand-flower nectar can already make your appearance ageless. If we extrapolate from this time, the beauty and beauty effects of this 100-year-old flower nectar must be extraordinary. Then there is the treatment of diabetes and high blood pressure. This function is also staggering. Diabetes is caused by high blood sugar among the three highs. So far, medically, the pathogenesis of diabetes has not been found. This disease seems to occur all of a sudden, which makes no sense, and the incidence rate of the three high diseases in modern society is getting younger and younger. In the end, medical science can only attribute the three highs to excessive nutrition. But the problem is that obtaining nutrients for the human body is necessary for survival, and it is also the reason why humans live so long now. Only adequate nutrition can allow organisms to live longer. The emergence of the three highs seems to refute it. Moreover, the three highs cannot be cured at all. At least in modern society, there is no method that can completely cure the three highs. Patients can only suppress the symptoms of three highs by taking medicine continuously every day. For example, patients with high blood pressure need to take high blood pressure medications every day, and patients with diabetes also need to take hypoglycemic drugs every day. However, you can't ignore the three highs. If left alone, it may cause various complications and may lead to sudden death. For example, high blood pressure may cause a blood vessel to suddenly rupture, which can easily cause blood clots. If it is a brain hemorrhage, it is easily caused by cerebral thrombosis or cerebral congestion. Diabetes can easily induce heart disease, which can be life-threatening. Poor blood sugar control can also cause complications such as diabetic foot and ulcers on the limbs. In the current world, people with three high-income families have the largest number of patients with various diseases. So if there is something that can completely cure the three highs, you can imagine the sensation it will cause. Finally, if you use millennium flower honey for a long time, you may gain the ability to communicate with insects. This really makes Du Yu's heart beat fast. After all, it is a special function, a supernatural power, who doesn't want it? And don't look at the honey obtained this time, which seems to be a lot. 78,000 kilograms of century-old 100-flower nectar is indeed a lot in absolute terms. But that was 1,400 years, a total of 60 hives produced. Those 1,000-year-old hives that are more than 500 years old, not only produce 500-year-old honey of thousands of flowers, and thousands of thousand-flower honey, they also produce 100-year-old honey of hundreds of flowers at the same time. That's it took 1,400 years of accumulation to collect so much. And only those that have been brewed for more than 100 years are century-old honey. The actual accumulation and production time is 1,300 years. This calculation equates to the average production of only 1 kilogram of century-old honey from each hive every year. Is this a lot? You know, Du Yu has already observed that the century-old hive is directly close to 4 meters. Such a large hive can produce 1 kilogram of century-old flower nectar in a year. This output is really impressive. This is also understandable. Bees make honey for themselves to eat, which is equivalent to food for bees. No matter how much it brews, it will still eat more. Only a few can be left to store it in the end, let alone store it for hundreds or thousands of years. Similarly, the 12,600 kilograms of 500-year-old thousand-flower nectar is the accumulation of 1,400 years of 14 hives that are over 500 years old, including the 3,000-year-old hives. The first batch of 500-year-old nectar also takes at least 500 years. Therefore, the production time of this kind of honey is only 900 years. Based on this calculation, a hive that is more than 500 years old can only produce at most 1 kilogram of honey a year. The diameter of hives that are more than 500 years old has. The nectar production of millennium flowers is even more impressive. Calculated, on average, a millennium beehive can only produce half a kilogram a year. The 1,000-year hive has a diameter of more than 30 meters. Such a large hive produces half a kilogram of thousands of nectar every year. The output is surprisingly small. This is the most reasonable method of honey harvesting adopted by the system. Without solidification, fish will be the result. Otherwise, if you think about it, if every time you collect honey, you collect all the hundreds of flower nectar, there will be no 500-year-old thousand flower nectar or thousands of flower nectar. Therefore, even if these hives exist in the future, if do you wants to have a continuous supply of honey, he can only harvest up to 60 kilograms of 100-year-old nectar, 14 kilograms of 500-flower nectar, and no more than 2 kilograms of 1,000-year nectar every year. 10,000 flowers honey. There may seem to be a lot of things for the time being, but we still need to plan carefully and not be reckless. After being surprised, did not forget to tease Empress Changsun. Hello, Sister Changsun. Just wait and see for Sister Changsun's beautiful photos today. 11. Moreover, Sister Zongsun, the system can not only take photos, but also videos. The operation is as follows. Then you sent a few diagrams on how to shoot videos, and taught the Queen of Tang Dynasty step by step how to shoot short videos. Moreover, the noble Queen's eldest grandson sister has already been honest with me. People must have basic morals and respect each other. There should be the most basic trust between people, right? Therefore, I have to be honest with my eldest grandson sister and not hide anything. So you also took a few selfies, perfectly showing his masculine abdominal muscles and majestic body to the other party. The most important thing is to let Sister Changsun understand her own strengths, weaknesses, and her tough style, so that we can understand each other and enhance our relationship. Is confident in his own advantages. He used to have a lot of capital, but now that he has been nourished by so many magical items, his advantages have become more obvious and huge, which is shocking. Queen Changsun got up from the bed lazily after receiving the message prompt. He stayed up very late yesterday and stayed up all night copying the Filial Piety Sutra with his 2 traders until midnight, so he got up late today. I saw the message prompts. Millennium Spirit Beehive, thousands of flowers nectar, 500 years 1,000 flowers nectar, centenary years 100 flowers nectar. Seeing these unheard of things and their uses really moved Queen Changsun. Especially the regular use of these nectars can keep her young and beautiful forever, which makes her excited. As for diabetes, she has never heard of it. But just because I haven't heard of it, I don't know how serious it is. People always have a strong subconscious sense of what they don't know. Especially the 3 highs mentioned in it can also cause sudden death, which reminded Empress Changsun that many emperors and queens in history died violently. Maybe it was caused by this unheard of disease. So the honey she got could cure these unheard of diseases, which made Queen Changsun feel even more powerful. Now the longer I get this system, the more magical things I see, and the more Queen Changsun is amazed. Then she saw Yu's message again, and her face turned slightly red. Thinking of yesterday, I had accidentally sent some embarrassing photos anyway. Empress Changsun couldn't help but feel her heartbeat and adrenaline rise. After shooing away the maids on the left and right, she put on her bellyband and started posing in the boudoir. Then I put on my gold embroidered shoes, went to the courtyard, and took a lot of selfies. In the end, she only wore gold embroidered shoes, started dancing with a sword, and took many photos. I even took a photo of him standing on a horse, holding a sword and looking heroic. I don't know why, but Empress Changsun is most satisfied with this one. Then he selected a few more photos, put together a 9-square grid and sent it to Du Yu. Of course, before posting photos, you must steal something first. Du Yu's orchard is full of fruits that Queen Changsun has never seen before. This time she chose a red, sweet-looking fruit called strawberry. She had tasted the mango she stole last time, and the taste was really unforgettable. Only then did I know that there are such delicious fruits in the world. The fruits are golden and have a unique fruity aroma and taste. The stolen crystal pears and apples also tasted extremely sweet, completely different from the pears and fruits she had eaten before, and she couldn't help but be greedy. So she was full of expectations for this very sweet-looking fruit called strawberry. Ding! Steal successfully and get strawberries 10 pounds. The strawberry mutated across time and space and became a beautiful strawberry. Long-term consumption of beauty strawberries can increase the appearance, beautify the figure, and increase the user's temperament, making women a peerless beauty. And it has the effect of improving human endocrine and can treat many gynecological diseases. Men can also increase their appearance, improve their temperament and enhance their male function by taking it. Ding! Congratulations on winning 10 pounds of beautiful strawberries. Ding! Congratulations to your friend Du Yu for winning 10 pounds of beautiful strawberries at the same time. Oh my gosh, it's another good thing that can increase your beauty, and it can also treat gynecological diseases. It's great. This made Empress Changsun couldn't help but take out a newly obtained red strawberry and prepare to enjoy it happily. That rosy face makes any woman unbearable and can't help but fall in love with him. The mutated red strawberry is like a small peach. Queen Changsun took a bite, and an unprecedented sweet feeling filled her mouth. How should I put it? This kind of sweetness is different from the sweetness of anything I have eaten before. It is a kind of sour and sweet, but extremely special sweetness. Although it is a bit sour, it will feel extremely sweet after the sourness. And this kind of taste made Empress Changsun lose control after eating it, and she immediately fell in love with it, just like mangoes. While eating strawberries, he called up some pictures sent by Du Yu, and Changsun Wang's face suddenly turned red as a red strawberry. This bad brother, this stinky brother, actually sent me a selfie. HMPH, you are so bold, you actually dare to tease me. Empress Changsun pouted her little cherry lips and said coquettishly, "Bad brother, I will spank you from now on." At this time, Empress Changsun was also caught in the battle between heaven and man. Should she watch or not? This is very confusing. Men are all lustful, but women are no different. Beautiful women also like to look at handsome little brothers. Walking on the street, a handsome young man will also attract the attention of young ladies. If the little brother has abdominal muscles and huge advantages, they will look at him even more. Empress Changsun was very torn. She turned her head away for a while and tried not to look. Then she squinted and glanced at the screen secretly. Ah, what a strong figure. No, you can't look at it, don't look at it if it's inappropriate. I am a role model for women in the world, how can I look at this kind of thing? Well, there is no one else in this space. No one will know even if you look at it. What's going on? You can't look at it. I am a stepmother who respects the world. She must lead by example, follow the 3 obediences and 4 virtues, and be loyal and loyal. Humph, what's wrong with looking at him twice? I'm just appreciating art. Besides, he's seen so many photos of this, what's wrong with me looking at him twice? This way we won't suffer a loss, otherwise it would be a big loss if we only show him the photos of the queen. But, don't worry, no one knows in this space anyway, not even your majesty, okay? Well, how can I, the empress of the Tang dynasty, suffer such a big loss? It is only fair to retaliate with an eye for an eye. Empress Changsun turned her head with great perseverance and began to look at modern photography art with a critical eye. Well, this light and shadow effect is good. The contrast is strong. This shooting technique is very good. Through comparison with reference objects, you can more intuitively feel the correct proportions of objects. It is worth learning from. Humph, you stinky brother, you have a lot of capital. The other party has such a large capital, I wonder if my bank can stop this business. Empress Changsun couldn't help but sigh. This business seemed difficult to do. The order was too big and she felt she couldn't bear it. Bah, what are you thinking about? Who wants to do his business? After half a day, Queen Changsun looked away and began to study in detail what a video is. It turns out that in addition to static images, you can also take dynamic images, which can record what happened in the past and reproduce what has happened. This made her feel extremely magical. Empress Changsun was very interested in this so-called video. She followed Du Yu's illustrations and started filming the first short video of the Empress of the Tang dynasty. After the filming was completed, Queen Changsun saw the results and said in surprise, "Oh my god, is this going back in time? What a profound and magical Xuanmen magic. It's really interesting. I can also do magic now." Then Empress Changsun couldn't help but shoot a few short videos of sword dancing, and she never tired of making videos. Especially the artistic videos, she took a lot of them, and finally selected the most satisfactory one and sent it to Du Yu. After she finished posting, she felt a little arrogant again, and her face turned red. But my heart was beating fast, and I felt extra exciting, as if I had done something bad and was caught in the act. In reality, there are many people who have good living conditions at home, but they always go to the supermarket to steal things. The things they steal are not valuable, but they are always willing to steal them. What they want is not how valuable the stolen thing is, nor the value of the stolen thing itself, but to experience the feeling of stealing. To put it simply, it is to experience the exciting feeling of breaking taboos and violating moral restraints. This kind of thing often happens in families with superior families, good education, and very well-behaved families. The family of Queen Changsun is like this. Changsun's family is a famous family. Her father, Changsun Sheng, was a famous military strategist and diplomat in the Sui dynasty. He was once the captain of Fengche and the general of Yu Xiaowei in the Sui dynasty. After his death, he was awarded the titles of Sikong, Shengjuguo and Kigyugong. The second uncle's eldest son, Sun Shiguan, was appointed as the Minister of Household Affairs, and he was waiting for the General of the Guard on his right. The eldest uncle, Sun Bazu, should be appointed as the Governor of Zunzhou. The eldest grandfather, Sun Guang, was a member of the 3rd Division of Yidong in the Kaifu of Zhou dynasty, and was hereditary Duke of Pingyuan. The great-grandfather Sun Yu was Wei Qing of the Western Wei dynasty and the Duke of Pingyuan County. The great-ancestor Sun Ji was the Grand Master of the Western Wei dynasty and King Wenxuan of Shangdang. Pushing back a few generations, the eldest grandson's family was a noble family. His mother, Gao, came from the Gao family, a prominent family in Bohai, and was the sister of Gao Shilian. Daba Gao Shilian is one of the 24 heroes of Lingyan Pavilion. He was the right servant of Shangshu, the prince in Teifu. He was the descendant of the northern Qi clan, the prime minister of the Tang dynasty, and the title of Duke of China. In other words, whether the Empress Changsun belongs to her father's family or her mother's family, she has been pushed back several generations and belongs to a famous and aristocratic family. She is a veritable rich lady, and her status is no worse than that of ordinary princesses. The education he received since he was a child was, of course, music, chess, calligraphy and painting, as well as orthodox Confucianism. The set of 3 obediences and 4 virtues of Confucian education, etiquette, integrity, and red tape have been mastered since childhood. It's no wonder that she became a queen and later made the Women's Code, which standardized the behavior of women in the world. To be precise, the standards for women in later generations to follow the 3 obediences and 4 virtues began with Queen Changsun. It can be said that she has been suppressed by these ancient female moral values throughout her life. I have never done anything deviant since I was a child. But the more this happens, the more severely one's nature is suppressed. Once one does something deviant, the uncontrollable excitement will be overwhelming. In fact, this can also be seen. The nickname of Queen Changsun is Guanyin Maid. It's because she has loved playing Guanyin since she was a child. But in a sense, this is also a deviant thing. In modern society, playing other characters is called cosplay. What do most people think of cosplay? By the way, Empress Changsun can be regarded as the first recorded cosplayer in ancient times. And the most important thing is that she cosplays Guanyin, a god. Playing the role of a god with a mortal body is somewhat treasonous. What's more interesting is that Li Shimin also liked her playing Guanyin very much. As for what she did after playing the role, this is really hard to say. In fact, Empress Changsun used a method similar to today's cosplay to vent her inner needs, and made a somewhat deviant act mentally. The reason why she enjoys doing it so much is because she feels stimulated by something that goes against the education she has received since she was a child. And now, Du Yu has opened another door for her. The important thing is that she and Du Yu are separated by time and space. No matter what actions she makes that are deviant or even seem dissolute in the eyes of normal people, she doesn't have to worry about it affecting the real world where she lives. This allowed her to be bold enough to do it, which was only a secret between her and Du Yu. But similarly, when a person does something bad, there needs to be an audience and someone to identify with it, so that the thrill of doing something bad will be amplified. Empress Changsun secretly took those artistic photos, which is equivalent to doing something bad. But after the shooting, no one appreciates it, and I always feel a little bit of regret in my heart. And inadvertently sending the photo to Du Yu actually made up for this shortcoming inadvertently. At the same time, I have already done this kind of thing, and I can never take it back. It has the meaning of breaking a jar and breaking it. In fact, that was just an excuse subconsciously made by Queen Changsun. Anyway, I have already sent such photos to Du Yu once. He has seen everything he should see, so it doesn't matter if he sends a few more. Her subconscious will make such excuses for herself and find reasonable explanations for her behavior. But is it really nothing? Even if you have sent a few photos before, there is no reason to continue sending such photos now, right? It's just that she unknowingly fell in love with this deviant behavior and found it very exciting. Therefore, the photos sent to Du Yu were carefully selected. The photo of standing on a horse can be said to be extremely bold. And now a video of several minutes has been posted. This caused Empress Changsun to fall into a kind of contradiction in her thoughts. How could I do such a thing? I'm so ashamed. Just do it. No one will know anyway. Only Du Yu can see the photo. He is still from another world. What are you afraid of? That's not okay. I have a family and am the queen of a country. If this spreads out, it will be really embarrassing. Spread the news. Who will spread the news? Will you spread the news? Du Yu is from another world, and he cannot contact your world. Who can he spread the news to? That seems to be the truth. Besides, you have taken so many photos and no one appreciates it. It's just like walking at night in brocade clothes. After all, it is just for people in another world to take a second look, and it is indispensable for you to have 2 pieces of meat. But I still feel so shy, especially that photo. Is it too bold? Does he think Ben Bai is too slutty? It's just a waste of time. What are you afraid of? Anyway, we are in a world apart, and no matter how he comments, it won't affect you. I think we can be a little bolder next time. No, absolutely not. At this time, Du Yu had already received a photo of Jugonj from Queen Changsun, as well as a short self-portrait video. The first few photos show Empress Changsun wearing a bellyband and lazily dressed on the bed in the boudoir. Just these photos made him unbearable. The ladylike temperament of ancient ladies surges through the photos. The lazy atmosphere fully expresses the gentle, virtuous, noble and elegant temperament of Empress Changsun. But at the same time, there is only one bellyband, classical bed furniture, and light gauze tents, which are full of contrasting excitement. This made Du Yu call out, "Women are born to take selfies." It's only been a few days. Sister Zongsun, you have already learned the essence of taking selfies. Whether it's the chosen scene, the matching of clothing, or the angle of light and shadow, it's really perfect. It's extremely beautiful to watch, and it's also full of temptation and interest. The next few photos made Du Yu even more unbearable. The last picture of the standing one-character horse made him couldn't help but make the gesture of Buddha chanting sutras, and shouted, "Sin, Amitabha. This poor monk has broken his precepts. I can't control it anymore. Even if Amitabha comes today, it won't help. Sister Zongsun, you are really good at it." Then there is that video, which is also quite wow. Empress Changsun holds a sword and keeps flying in the courtyard. The light of the sword is like a shuttle, and the jade body is like snow intertwined to form a beautiful south face. As the jade feet tap, the bells on the gold embroidered shoes jingle, and as they jump, white rabbits chase each other through the air. It's like Chang holding a jade rabbit, and Guanyin stepping on a lotus. At the end of the video, Empress Changsun finished her sword practice and was slightly out of breath. She sat on a rockery boulder with her legs crossed, her beautiful jade feet hooked on her gold-embroidered shoes, and she kept swinging. In the blink of an eye, this move caused countless ripples in the man's heart. This made Du Yu couldn't help but sigh. How great it would be if I could give Empress Changsun a pair of high heels. Don't be too seductive. As a modern person, I know more about videos than Queen Changsun. And when his fingers slid unintentionally, he discovered something that surprised him even more. Du Yu couldn't help but said in surprise, "You are so good at playing the system, YYDS." Because he suddenly discovered something. Not only was this video unprecedented in ultra-high definition. Although it is not as detailed as a photo and reaches 80 billion pixels, each frame also reaches 20 billion pixels. Not only that, the number of frames in the video was also astonishingly high. At least Du Yu didn't realize how many frames this video had. The number of frames is so high that even if you pause it anywhere, there will be no blurry afterimages due to the character's fast speed. 0. Even after zooming in with 3 fingers, it is still very clear. Finally, and what surprised Du Yu the most, this video turned out to be a full-scale holographic image. Holograms are videos that can be viewed from 360 degrees in all directions. This kind of technology has not yet been realized even in our own world. But the system is indeed a system, it is so high-end. The video shot by Queen Changsun has her own shooting angle, which is the main angle of the video. But Du Yu can rotate the screen according to his own needs and watch it from any angle. You can also control the camera angle to zoom in and out. The video is so clear that if you zoom in on a leaf, you can see the clear veins on the leaf. That's why Du Yu lamented, "You're so good at playing the system. I like you so much, let's keep this advantage going." After Queen Changsun sent the photos to Du Yu, she still had many things she wanted to ask. Soon Du Yu received her message, "I have something unknown. In the future, when my third son inherits the throne, I will appoint the woman named Wu as my queen. Is there no objection? That woman surnamed Wu later tried to seize my kingdom, Li Tang. Wouldn't anyone in the civil and military dynasties object to it? Where is my brother Changsun Wuji? Will he just let my son do whatever he wants? Will he let a woman usurp me, Li Tang, Zhang Shanai?" Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe. Chapter 71. Du Yu replied after reading, "Of course there are people who object. Changsun Wuji took the lead in opposing it, and your brother Changsun Wuji was the minister who supported Li Ji's succession. But Changsun Wuji represents the interests of the Longyu political group, coupled with the traditional old-line aristocratic families such as Wangqi and others who control the government. This made Li Ji, who became the emperor, very dissatisfied. Isn't it exactly what you and Li Shimin want to do, Sister Changsun, by weakening the influence of the family members?" So the conflict between the two sides became more and more intense, especially when Li Ji wanted to abolish the queen and establish a new military queen, which completely broke out. Li Ji and Empress Wu took advantage of the contradiction between the Guanlong clan and the 5 hopes and 7 surnames to check and balance the left and right, and finally deposed Empress Wang and established Empress Wu. He also promoted the children of poor families, using them to check and balance the power of the noble families, so that the 4 kingdoms 0 could use various forces to achieve political balance. 4 years later, Empress Wu ordered Zongshu Ling Shu Jingzong to frame Changsun Wuji for rebellion, and Changsun Wuji's family was exiled to Lingnan. In July of the same year, Changsun Wuji was forced to hang himself by Shu Jingzong. Changsun's family was confiscated and his close relatives were exiled to Lingnan as slaves. Zhao Shui was rehabilitated 15 years later. After seeing Du Yu's message, Queen Changsun felt like the world was spinning and she couldn't stand still. "I finally managed to hold on to the rockery to steady my body, but I couldn't breathe smoothly because the majestic mountains were undulating." She values family ties most in her life, and what she values most is family harmony. "But I didn't expect that such a tragedy would happen after his death. In my husband's family, the 3 sons he gave birth to were all beasts, and each one of them was a traitor. In my natal family, my eldest brother was framed for rebellion and was forced to hang himself. The Changsun family was even ransacked and exiled, and the family declined ever since. The Changsun family, which had been glorious for hundreds of years, was gone. Thinking of this, Queen Chang's son also felt an unprecedented cold light, and there was an unprecedented aura in her eyes. You, among the sons I gave birth to, the third son is the most and the most rebellious. I have decided that I will never give birth to a beast like you. When I find out which child you were pregnant with, I will abort it immediately. Li Ji, who was not yet born at this time, was already shivering. Mother, please forgive me, mother, please forgive me. My son knows I'm wrong, my 4 ministers know I'm wrong. At this time, Queen Chang's son was determined. Although the message Du Yu sent was only a short one, as a queen of a country, she also knew very well about politics, harem, and power struggles. Just from Du Yu's words, she was able to infer a lot of hidden information. For example, the current court is actually composed of the Longyu Zhonghui group and the 5 Wangs and 7 surnames as the main political groups. Especially the 5 hopes and 7 surnames, some of these families can be traced back to the Han and Jin dynasties, and they have always been the aristocratic families that control the world. These noble families are sometimes so arrogant that they don't even give the emperor face. For example, in order to win over them, Li Shimin wanted to marry a woman with all kinds of surnames as his concubine. This is originally a political marriage, a way to draw each other in and offset each other's conflicts. However, the other party refused without giving any face. Later, Li Shimin wanted to marry the other party, wanted to marry his daughter into the other party's family, and also wanted the prince to marry a daughter of the 5th surname and Qi Wang, but the other party still refused. You can know how arrogant Wu Xingqi Wang was during this period. This forced Li Shimin to strengthen the power of the Longyu Zhonghui group to compete with the 5 surnames and 7 hopes. Li Shimin even had to resort to dangerous measures to reopen the imperial examination system and inject a third force from a poor family into the court. Why is it said that reopening the imperial examination system is a dangerous move? The system of imperial examinations was not initiated by Li Shimin, but by Emperor Yang of Sui dynasty. This was also the fundamental reason for the death of the 2nd generation of the Sui dynasty. As for the things recorded in history about Emperor Yang of the Sui dynasty being fatuous and incompetent, wasting money, these are actually the crimes that Confucians want to accuse him of. The right to speak of Confucianism was in the hands of the 5 hopes and 7 surnames during this period. Emperor Yang of the Sui dynasty was actually a very talented emperor, who also conquered the world with his father, Emperor Wen of the Sui dynasty. Whether it is martial arts or martial arts, he can be called a wise king. Moreover, in the early days of his succession, the country was also governed in an orderly manner. But when he succeeded to the throne, he discovered a serious problem. The power of the noble clans was too strong. Sometimes the emperor had to be restrained by the influence of these clans when doing things. This was something that no ambitious and accomplished emperor could tolerate, so he invented the system of imperial examinations. This gave the poor families in the world an opportunity, and at the same time, it also dealt a serious blow to the gentry group and shook their foundation. The reason why the powerful gentry can survive for hundreds of years is because they monopolize the power of reading, they monopolize knowledge, and make the people of the world ignorant. Governing a country requires people with a certain level of knowledge and culture. And these people all came from noble families, so the emperor had to rely on these families. This allowed them to monopolize the political power of the Xia kingdom for nearly 1,000 years from the Han dynasty to the Tang dynasty. All royal families will perish, but those aristocratic families can remain prosperous for this reason. So they started to stumbling upon Emperor Sui Yang on the late stage. As an emperor, what's wrong with opening up and expanding territory for the country? Emperor Yang of the Sui dynasty defeated Goryeo, which was what a wise king should do. Moreover, with the national power of the Sui dynasty at that time, it was not easy to conquer the small Goryeo. But what is surprising is that the army lost one battle after another, and all 3 expeditions to Goryeo ended in failure. Why is this happening? What is the reason? It was these aristocratic families who continued to use dirty tricks behind the scenes to sell the Sui dynasty's military deployment and military secrets to Fuli. They also continued to play tricks on logistics. The soldiers at the front often lacked food and grass supplies, and no one even repaired their weapons and equipment after they were damaged. In this case, there is no reason to be invincible. Even the Grand Canal of the Sui and Tang dynasties, which benefited future generations for generations to come, was smeared by them as a waste of people and money. It is even named after Emperor Yang of the Sui dynasty visited Yangzhou, and the construction of the Grand Canal was said to be dug by Emperor Yang of the Sui dynasty for the sake of extravagance and for the convenience of visiting Yangzhou for whoring. If going to Yangzhou is called extravagant and lustful, what should we say about Emperor Qianlong's 7 visits to the south of the Yangtze River? At the end of the Sui dynasty, the common people were in dire straits, and the fundamental reason was actually the gentry and clans working behind the scenes. They levied excessive taxes on their own territory, and then put all the blame on Emperor Sui Yang. Anyway, the common people have never read books and know nothing. However, the gentry headed by the 5 hopes and 7 surnames represent scholars, represent the world's tongue, and control the direction of public opinion. So the Sui dynasty the second died. Li Shimin saw this clearly. In the early stage, he hoped to win over the 5 surnames and Qi Huang through marriage to achieve political balance. Unfortunately, the other party was so crazy that he could not even look down on the royal family. Therefore, Li Shimin used the Longyu Zongui group, a new aristocratic group, to fight against the 5 surnames and 7 hopes. At the same time, he also used the internal contradictions among the 5 surnames and Qi Huang to differentiate them to a certain extent. Under this circumstance, the imperial examination system was reopened, injecting a third force into the imperial court. Such a political game, with the wisdom of the 30th eldest grandson queen, naturally saw it very clearly. Therefore, if his son inherits the throne in the future, if he is smart enough, he should continue according to Li Shimin's ideas. After decades of hard work, when the 3 political forces of the poor families, the Longyu group and the 5 hopes and 7 surnames reach a balance, they will be able to completely control the current situation. It was obvious that his son was stupid, and the 5 hopes and 7 surnames took advantage of the matter of establishing the queen, which became an opportunity to attack the Longyu group. With the exile of Changsun Wuji, the Longyu Zongui group also completely lost its original position in the Great Tang dynasty. Many films and TV dramas of later generations glorified Li Ji and Wu Zetian as representatives who stand up for the poor and win over the world like dragons. Bullshit. Was everyone like a dragon during Wu Zetian's time? In a way, they are losers in political struggles. Because triangles are the most stable. Among the triangles, the 5 hopes and 7 surnames are the most powerful. During the period of Emperor Gaozong and Li Ji of the Tang dynasty, the Longyu group seemed powerful, but in fact it had insufficient foundation. What needs to be done at this time is to let the Longyu group and the children from poor families unite to fight against the 5 hopes and 7 surnames. Only when the poor families rise completely can a truly balanced political ecology be formed. But Li Ji was too hasty. After the Longyu group was completely destroyed, the terror of the 5 hopes and 7 surnames began to slowly erupt again, and the remaining poor families were completely helpless. Wu Zetian late stage is just struggling to support. Why did she appoint cruel officials? It was because at this time, normal political methods could no longer restrain the gentry group headed by Wu Wang and 20. Later, Wu Zetian was overthrown again by the aristocratic family headed by Wu Wangqi in his later years. From then on, until the end of the Great Tang dynasty, the politics of the entire Tang dynasty was actually monopolized in the hands of the gentry headed by the 5 surnames. Although separated by time and space, Empress Changsun could still imagine how turbulent the Empress was when she deposed Wang Li. And his stupid son obviously couldn't see the deep-seated game behind this. Beauty drove him to his head. Couldn't he see that his eldest brother Sun Wuji was being framed? Of course Li Ji can tell. But it doesn't matter whether it's a frame-up or not. He needed an excuse to attack Changsun Wuji in order to weaken the Longyu group. Li Ji in history only wanted to weaken the power of the Longyu group, not to truly destroy the Longyu group. He also understands the principle of balancing the 3. He still has this basic political wisdom. That's why in July of the same year, he had to review Changsun Wuji's rebellion. It's just that things were out of his control. Qi Huang, the 5th surname, took the lead and forced Changsun Wuji to death. The political balance between the 3 pillars was completely broken. Empress Changsun also saw clearly Li Ji's thoughts at that time through time and space, and she also knew very well why Li Ji lost his temper. Because Li Ji never realized which pole of the 3 pillars was the most powerful. Among the three kingdoms, Cao Wei sometimes seems to have weakened in power, but in fact that is just an illusion. He has always been the strongest among the three kingdoms. The 5 hopes and 7 surnames have been around for thousands of years since the Han Dynasty, and there have been times when they appeared to be weak during this period, but that is all an illusion. In fact, they have always been strong. It's just that they sometimes deliberately show weakness to the enemy, but both Li Ji and Empress Wu were fooled, thinking that the opponent was really weak. This made Empress Changsun sigh and said, "Alas! My third son is not smart enough after all, and his political wisdom is not enough. You are not ruthless enough, but you are able to be ruthless to my mother's family, and you have the heart of an emperor. But you are ruthless enough, and you are manipulated by a little woman. You can't pass the test of beauty. You really disappoint my mother. When you should be cruel, you are not cruel. When you shouldn't be cruel, you are cruel." And regardless of family ties, he forced his own uncle to death and exiled my eldest grandson's family. That's great, you beast. Since you don't care about family ties, don't blame me for being cruel to your mother. You rebellious son, don't blame me for cutting off the mother-son bond with you. Some readers said that Li Ji was a wise king, so why did Queen Changsun call him a beast and a traitor? I did not say that Li Ji was a foolish king, but it is certain that Li Ji's political wisdom was not enough. And regardless of whether he was a wise king or not, but in the eyes of Empress Changsun and Li Shimin, he almost lost Li Tang's kingdom, that is, he was a beast and a traitor. At this moment, Queen Changsun had already determined not to give birth to Li Ji. In his opinion, among his 3 sons, Li Ji is the most rebellious and the most unforgivable. Because he lacks political wisdom, is greedy for beauty, and has a soft ear. He is cruel when he shouldn't be cruel, and he is not cruel when he should be. In some ways, he is very similar to King Zhou. It's just that Li Ji was weak and sick, and he died before he could ruin the country. After calming down, Empress Changsun sent a message back to Du Yu. "Thank you, sir, for your teachings, which have solved many of my doubts. At the same time, I hope that you will not hesitate to give me some advice. How can we, the Tang dynasty, avoid this inevitable situation? How can we save the Tang dynasty from the fire and water? Besides, do you think my eldest son still needs to be rescued? How can we save him and teach him to become a wise king?" But if you want to know the answers to these questions, you can only wait until tomorrow, because Du Yu no longer has the authority to send messages today. At this time, Du Yu was in contact with Bai Yuekui. Bai Yuekui first stole Du Yu's mangoes and then obtained a batch of moonlight narcissus mango trees, which was what she needed most now. At the same time, she sent a message to Du Yu, hoping that Du Yu could steal her wheat. Her mana source wheat was no longer enough. Of course, Du Yu readily agreed to Bai Yuekui's request. Then he took the opportunity to send a message. "Sister Bai, yesterday's photos were so beautiful, can you send some more photos? It would be better to post a video. My sister looks so beautiful and sassy when she fights." Seeing such information, Bai Yuekui also remembered yesterday and his face turned slightly red. At this time, Bai Yuekui's heart became more active than before because many safety hazards had been eliminated and there was hope for the future. When facing Du Yu, he was not as cold as in the anime. Bai Yuekui made an excuse, left Shado and the others, and left the base alone. Once you are far enough away from the base, take off your clothes and start taking selfies. The background of the photo has a unique charm against the desolate surface of the spirit cage world. After taking hundreds of photos, a pole-devouring beast came flying from a distance. Dealing with a pole-devouring beast is not easy for Bai Yuekui. She was crushed by her the whole time, but Bai Yuekui was not in a hurry. Instead, while fighting, he records videos and takes selfies through the system. When Du Yu received the photos and videos, others couldn't help but exclaimed, "So Sister Bai is also so good at playing." Sure enough, women are born to take selfies. Not to mention the first 3 photos, the photos taken with the desolate background of the spirit cage world are full of a unique beauty of wasteland atmosphere. Let's just talk about the last few photos, of Bai Yuekui fighting with the devouring beast. They are really beautiful. The most important thing is that Sister Bai is not wearing any clothes. Who has seen such a fighting posture? One word: absolute. So beautiful, so wonderful. It is full of contrasting beauty between beauty and monster. Especially the photo of the beautiful legs in high heels pointing straight up to the sky, kicking the pole-devouring beast away, is full of violent aesthetics. So handsome and beautiful, coupled with the white body, another element of charm is injected into it. It was an unprecedented experience. The video sent at the same time also made Duyu's blood swell with enthusiasm. He really wanted to transmigrate time and space and fight with Sister Bai like this. Sister Bai, the photos are so beautiful. The video is also great, and the angle of the camera is very good. Please sister, please post more of these photos and videos in the future. Especially this video of a naked battle, I just want to say do it again 100 million times. At this time, the pole-eating beast had fallen to the ground and was nailed to the ground by Bai Yuekui's sword. It was completely dead. Her beautiful feet of high heels were stepping on the head of the devouring beast, and while she was looking at Duyu's reply message, she couldn't help but bite her lips gently. It was her first time to fight like this, and it was also full of a novel feeling, which seemed quite exciting. She couldn't help but want to find a few more pole-devouring beasts to fight and take some beautiful photos and videos. Facing the pole-devouring beast that she had killed, she took several photos with him. Then Bai Yuekui drew his sword and walked towards the depths of the more desolate valley. Okay, if the other person wants to see videos like this, I'll take more pictures. Just think of it as a way to thank the other party for their contribution to my world. Anyway, across the world, only he can see such photos and videos, and there will be no shame. After teasing Queen Changsun and Bai Yuekui, it's time to tease Sister Yaya in the world of fox girls and little matchmakers. Clicking on the other party's interface, Duyu chose to steal the bamboo of sadness this time. This is also an item that does not exist in other worlds. Ding! Steal successfully and get the bamboo of sadness 6. The sadness bamboo mutated across time and space and became the divine level sadness bamboo. Sad bamboo is a material used in the world of the fox demon little matchmaker to refine the fox clan's law treasure. It can carry the fox clan's emotional power. The mutated divine level bamboo can be used to refine divine weapon level law treasure, which can be used to refine 6 divine level law treasure sticks. The law treasure level is equivalent to Tears of the Void. 6 pathetic sticks, a combined law treasure, is made from 6 divine level pathetic bamboo sticks and contains the power of 7 emotions and 6 desires. When used, it can trigger the enemy's 7 emotions: joy, anger, sadness, fear, love, evil, and desire. At the same time, it can control one's own 6 desires: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. It can also trigger one's own 7 emotions. The physical potential of the body explodes 10 times the combat effectiveness. Backquote as a powerful law treasure that is effective against creatures outside the circle and defends against various illusions. With this law treasure, you can also resist the strange attacks of creatures outside the circle. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining the 6 roots of the divine level pathetic bamboo. Ding! Congratulations to your friend Tushin Yaya for obtaining 6 divine level bamboo roots at the same time. This really surprised Duyu. He actually stole 6 bamboos this time. It's different from before, it's not food. And its function also surprised Lu Yu. It turned out to be a material for refining law treasure. Moreover, the refined law treasure is actually on the same level as Tears of the Void. In the world of the fox demon matchmaker, law treasure is the strongest. There are only a few law treasures that can compare with it, such as the royal sword. Wang Mo Jiao, I didn't expect that a piece of bamboo I just stole would turn out to be such an awesome thing after systematic mutation. Moreover, the system also comes with a method for refining this kind of law treasure. Duyu took a look at it and it was not difficult to tell. Basically, this set of law treasure relies on the natural properties of this bamboo. The most important thing is that it can control the power of 7 emotions and 6 desires. This is fatal to those outside the circle. For example, as a creature outside the circle, the black fox is good at finding people's desires and weaknesses and manipulating emotions. Jin Chengxi, a creature outside the circle, is good at using the hope of creatures, and hope can also be regarded as a kind of desire. Generally speaking, in fact, the so-called outside creatures are strange creatures that can control the desires and emotions of creatures to control each other. And this kind of law treasure can restrain the opponent, and can also control the 7 emotions and stick to the 6 desires. With this law treasure, you can make yourself invulnerable to creatures outside the circle and fight back. This is law treasure tailor-made for the world of Fox Demon Matchmaker. So when Tushin Yaya saw this prompt, she couldn't help but be a little surprised. With this kind of law treasure, the chance of winning against creatures outside the circle is increased by several %. The most important thing is that this kind of law treasure is actually an auxiliary law treasure, which can block the invasion of creatures outside the circle by just wearing it on the body. And when attacking, you can mobilize the power of emotions to attack the enemy. And using its body to attack can knock out the possessed creature from the body of the possessor. It is truly the nemesis of creatures outside the circle. This made Tushin Yaya couldn't help but be moved. As the king of Tushin, she knows very well that whether it is their monster alliance or the Yikidao alliance, the ultimate common enemy of the entire world within the circle is outside the circle. For many years, they have been looking for ways to restrain creatures outside the circle. She didn't expect that she could get it in such an easy way. This made Tushin Yaya realize for the first time that perhaps there were too few plant species in her 103 garden. It's time to transplant more things, maybe there will be unexpected gains in the future. At this time, she also saw Du Yu's message, "Sister Yaya, do you miss me? I miss Sister Yaya so much. The photo I posted yesterday was so beautiful. Send me some more today. Also send me a video. You know, I want an artistic video. It would be better if it is a video of Sister Yaya performing magic without clothes. It would be even better if she wears a tail. It's furry, I like it." Seeing the other party's message, Tushin Yaya gritted her teeth again, and the cold power swept around. "Asshole, just wait for me. If one day I can break the world wall, I will definitely let you taste my cold power." But after gritting her teeth, she had no choice but to offend Du Yu. After a while, she put away the cold air on her body, took a few sips from the endless wine bottle, and a tail appeared behind her, and she began to slowly remove her clothes, leaving only high heels. Then I comforted myself in my heart. Dabc, forget it, I saw what I should have seen yesterday anyway, but I just gave him a few more photos. Just let that person be proud for a while, and sooner or later he will look good. Wait until you send the photos and videos. Tushin Yaya snorted and sent a message, "Give me the follow-up plot." Du Yu looked at the photos and videos sent and sighed. The 3 beauties have their own characteristics. I can't get bored no matter how I look at them. No one else has seen Sister Yaya cast spells like this, right? It's really eye-opening. Looking at the message sent by the other party, of course the plot is to be given to the other party, but it cannot be given so easily. The teasing must be done. People like Tushin Yaya cannot be pursued through normal pursuit methods. You can only take the wrong approach. No matter what method you use, you have to break the opponent's reserve and coldness to have hope. She is used to being a queen, but a queen also longs to be conquered. They will only surrender to the kind of man who completely suppresses them without any resistance. No matter what method is used to make this kind of woman feel powerless to resist, the first step has been successful. So Du Yu immediately replied to the message and said, "If you want a plot, it's okay." Sister Yaya asks her husband to listen to it. "Call my husband and I will give you the follow-up plot." Seeing this information, Tushin Yaya couldn't help but grit her teeth. She didn't know how long it had been since she had such mood swings. But after the anger, she still replied with a message, "Husband." Du Yu could imagine what Tushin Yaya's expression looked like on the other side of time and space. He was very satisfied with his results. Then he sent a video to the other party. The video was the first episode of the Fox Fairy Matchmaker anime. The system now allows one video to be posted every day, and an episode of anime is considered one video. That's fine, you can hang on to Tushin Yaya every day. Tushin Yaya opened the first episode of the Fox Demon Matchmaker anime and started watching it carefully. She looked at it so seriously that she didn't even notice that Tushin Rongrong came in. After finishing the first episode of the anime, she held her chin and started thinking. Then suddenly I heard Tushin Rongrong's voice next to me, "Sister, what are you looking at? Could it be that this is something that will happen in the future?" This made Tushin Yaya suddenly wake up, looked at Tushin Rongrong and asked, "When did you come in?" Then Tushin Rongrong's lips curved into a smile. He opened his eyes and looked at Tushin Yaya up and down, and said with a hint of joking, "Sister, I didn't expect you to have such a hobby. When I have nothing to do, I like to take off my clothes and think alone." Only then did Tushin Yaya notice her situation, feeling a little embarrassed and scolding "Do you bloody" in her heart. But on the surface, he pretended to be calm, crossed his legs, and then asked, "When did you come? What's the matter?" Tushin Rongrong replied, "I just felt that my sister's monstrous power suddenly had unusual fluctuations just now, so I came over to take a look. I didn't expect to see such an interesting scene. Sister, you seem to have some special hobbies. Also, what was going on in the video you watched just now?" This is the situation when the younger sister met Bai Chuo, but now Susu has not met Bai Chuo yet. In other words, what my sister saw was what will happen in the future. I'm curious about where she got it from. Tushin Yaya replied, "Where did you get it? It needs care. As you can see, this is what's going to happen. It seems that my sister is also hiding something from me, which makes me very sad." Tushin Yaya sighed and replied, "I didn't hide it from you on purpose, but if I know too much about some things, I will feel very powerless." Tushin Rongrong's narrowed eyes opened, and then she said, "Sister, you rarely have such an expression. This is not like the Tushin Yaya I know. It's really rare for you to be so unsure of yourself. Is there something going on? Can't we face it together?" Tushin Yaya held up her high heels and supported her chin with one hand. She stared at Tushin Rongrong for a long time before sighing and saying, "Little sister, if I say that our world is fake, it was drawn by someone, world, do you believe it?" Tushin Rongrong was moved by these words and his eyes widened. "Is our world fake, a world drawn by others? Sister, is this true? How is this possible?" Tushin Yaya shook her head and said, "Although I don't want to admit it, it seems that this may be true. A few days ago, I suddenly received a mysterious invitation, inviting me to join the Myriad World's food stealing group. A thing called a system appeared in my mind. I don't know what it is, maybe it's a mysterious law treasure, maybe it's something else. Through it, I can connect with people in other worlds. And one of these worlds is the creator of our world. What is anime? Sister, you should know, right?" Tushin Rongrong nodded and said, "I know, it's a popular form of entertainment in the human world. Adapt the story into comics, and then adapt the comics into animation." "Why did sister suddenly say this?" Tushin Yaya said, "Our world is just an animation made by someone in another world. He calls us the world of fox demons and little matchmakers. Everything that happens here is just a plot drawn by a cartoonist. Do you know what this means?" Hearing this, Tushin Rongrong opened his eyes again in surprise. After a while, she narrowed her eyes and said with a smile, "This means our destiny is determined. It means that all the resistance we do may be in vain, which is a bit disappointing. But at the same time, the ending should be happy." Tushin Yaya looked at her in surprise and asked, "Why do you say that? It seems like my sister has never read novels, comics or anime about the mortal world. Generally speaking, these works must end with a happy ending, which is what readers and audiences want to see. So for the vast majority of anime, no matter how tortuous the process is, the final result is basically everyone is happy. So, this also shows in disguise that the final outcome of our world may not be bad. Sister, is this good news?" Hearing this, Tushin Yaya lowered her crossed leg and raised the other leg, looking slightly uneasy. Then he said, "Listen to what you said, it seems to make sense. But I still feel a little unwilling in my heart. Are you willing to do it?" Tushin Rongrong slowly shook his head and said, "Although the ending is likely to be happy, I am very happy. But this feeling of not being able to control your destiny is really annoying." Tushin Yaya also nodded and said, "Yes. We always thought that we could finally control our own destiny, but now it all seems a bit ridiculous. Even the third young master of the Alai kingdom, who we think is a very powerful outsider, is a poor man who cannot control his own destiny." Suddenly, there was a bit of a lull in interest. The goal we have worked hard to achieve for so long is actually very humble and ridiculous, isn't it? Tushin Rongrong walked up to her and said, "Sister, what do you want to do? Despair, give up, decadence." Hearing this, Tushin Yaya stood up from her seat with a snort, and the biting cold air burst out to the surroundings again. So what? I won't admit defeat. One day I will open the dimensional wall and go to create our world. I want to seek justice from that world. Why should our fate be at the mercy of them? Tu Shan Rongrong raised a smile and said, "That's right, this is the sister I know." Then she pointed to the anime video and said, "Is this the future plot sent to you by that world?" Tushin Yaya nodded and said, "Yes." Tushin Rongrong nodded when he heard this and said, "Okay, then let us witness whether the future plot is the same as what the other party sent us. Let's first make sure what the other party says is true or false. If it is true, we can try to change it in the subsequent plot. If we can change even a tiny bit of the plot, it means." Tushin Yaya also glanced at her and said, "That means there is still hope. The girls who should be flirted with have all been wiped off. It's almost noon and it's time to eat." Du Yu, who sat down to rest, took out a piece of century-old honey that he had just obtained and prepared to taste this delicious food. The color is like gold, transparent and clear, and like citrine like honey, filling the hexagonal honeycomb. Even the honeycomb is crystal clear and looks extremely delicate. Such a small piece of honey, just looking at the appearance will make people appetite and salivate. This natural dessert is a delicacy at the art level that no seal master in the world can make. In front of this piece of honey, people can taste the ultimate sweetness of happiness in the world, which will eclipse any dessert master in the world. While Du Yu was savoring the most outstanding dessert in nature, a soft and waxy voice suddenly came from above his head. "Hello. Sir, could you please ask me the way? I seem to be lost." When Du Yu heard the sound, he looked up and saw a girl standing on the branch looking down at a distance of more than 10 meters above the big tree at his own height. With a slightly shy and embarrassed expression, the other party brushed his hair beside his ear and said, "I want to go down the mountain, but I can't find the way." Du Yu was also a little surprised, and then said, "Girl, when did you climb up this tree?" When the other party heard this, he jumped down from the tree. This surprised Du Yu and he shouted involuntarily, "Girl, be careful." Without thinking, I reached out to pick it up. After all, this is jumping from a tree more than 10 meters high. Even if the average person does not fall to death, his legs and arms will be broken. Unexpectedly, the girl on the tree jumped down without saying anything. Did her feet slip? However, what surprised Du Yu was that before the opponent landed, he turned around in the air, avoided Du Yu's hands that were about to catch the opponent, landed safely on the ground, and then said softly, "Thank you. Young master is a good man, but I'm fine." Only then did Du Yu see that the other party was wearing a Taoist robe. It was not the yellow Taoist robe in Hong Kong and Taiwan movies, but an ordinary blue Taoist robe. But the other party's Taoist robe, collar and cuffs were all embroidered with Bagua symbols. There is no Taoist crown on his head, but a wooden hairpin stuck in his head, and his bright green hair is simply bound and draped behind his back. The other party also held a sword in his hand, and he looked a little out of place. Coupled with the other party's innocent and shy expression, he looked like an otherworldly fairy. 063. This made Du Yu stop for a moment and look at it twice. Especially the other party has a peerless appearance. He couldn't help but be surprised by the proud figure that could not be concealed under the loose Taoist robe. In this deep mountain and old forest, I can actually meet such a woman. Especially since the opponent can jump down from a tree more than 10 meters away with a single leap, his body is as light as a swallow and his hair is not injured. From this point of view, the other party is not an ordinary person. In addition, this was in the deep mountains and old forests. To be honest, even Du Yu doubted whether he had encountered ghosts or fairies. If this happened before, Du Yu would definitely not believe this. But since he got the system, he has learned that there are many things in this world that he cannot explain. It's not necessarily that there aren't ghosts, monsters, spirits, demons and the like. So after Du Yu was stunned, he asked in a strange way, "Fairy? Monster?" The other party was stunned for a moment when he heard this, obviously not understanding what it meant. I guess I have never heard of this classic line, so my reaction was very surprised, and I replied seriously, "Young master misunderstood. I am not a god, nor a monster, I am a human being. Normal people." Du Yu looked up at the tree branches more than 10 meters above the ground and said, "This is what you call a normal person?" Girl, are you wrong in your definition of normal people? Which normal person can jump from a height of more than 10 meters like you and remain unharmed? Unexpectedly, the girl answered seriously, everyone around me is like this. Those senior brothers can jump higher than me. This made Du couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth, knowing in his heart that he probably met a group of abnormal people this time. Then he asked, girl, where does this come from? Where is it going? The other party replied, I came from the mountain and want to go down the mountain. This answer comes in one word, absolutely. Du finally figured it out. This girl was just a novice. She was very innocent and had probably not had much contact with society. Then he said jokingly, girl, you haven't been living in the mountains and forests since you were born, and you haven't had any contact with outsiders, right? Unexpectedly, the other party nodded seriously, and then said in surprise, how do you know? Holy crap, you actually made me say it right. I've been talking too much. The other party actually heard this unintentional complaint, and stared at Du's mouth seriously for a while, and said, no, sir, you have never opened your mouth. Every law weapon that has been illuminated has the light of law weapon, but you don't have it on your lips. And I haven't heard Master say that it can also be consecrated. This made Du couldn't help but wailed in his heart, girl, if you chat like this, it's easy to kill the whole world, do you know? Can you tell which ones are truth and which ones are complaints? Du glanced at the other party and felt that the other party couldn't tell the difference. Then he asked, girl, where are you coming from? Which mountain are you on? Which mountain are you going to? The mountain is the mountain. As for the foot of the mountain, the master said he wanted me to practice at the foot of the mountain, but he didn't say which mountain. Then the other party clapped his hands and said, oops, I forgot to ask. Oops, what should I do? Could I have gone to the wrong place? Master, that old fool really didn't explain it clearly. It turns out there are so many people under the mountain. This made Du couldn't help but slap himself on the forehead, and suddenly felt that this girl's IQ was worrying. She is so pretty and beautiful, and looks so smart, so it doesn't look like she is unintelligent. Mada, girl, you are like this, and your master doesn't worry about you going out. You are indeed an old fool. Aren't you afraid that if you let this girl out, she will be kidnapped and trafficked in 2 days? After listening to what the other party said, Du roughly guessed that maybe the other party had lived in seclusion in the mountains and forests for a long time and had no contact with the outside world at all. Living with this girl were her senior brothers and a master, who for some unknown reason sent her down the mountain to gain experience. Why does this plot sound a little familiar? It seems like a plot in a martial arts novel, in which a reclusive sect suddenly has someone from the younger generation who has learned a lesson, and is sent down the mountain to eliminate demons, guard ways, eliminate violence, and Anliang to experience 10 rounds of killing monsters to gain experience. Looking at it this way, it seems to be about the same. It's just a girl, your master is too unreliable. How big are their hearts if you are so confident and bold enough to let it out? Du coughed, and then said, I haven't asked yet, who is this girl's disciple? After hearing this, the other party immediately replied seriously, I am Chang Lingruo, a 13th generation disciple of the Dongyi sect, and my master is Hui Feng, the elder of the Dongyi sect. I don't know who my senior brother is. Du slapped his thigh and said, oh, she turns out to be a junior sister from Dongyi sect. It turns out that you are Chang Lingruo, the junior sister of the Dongyi sect who sent me to pick you up from the mountain. I'm Du, a disciple of the Quanjun sect, and I've been ordered to lead my junior sister down the mountain for training. The person who said this was stunned. He couldn't help but stretched out his hand to touch the hair beside his ear, and then said uncertainly, when I came down the mountain, the master didn't tell me that a senior brother would come to pick me up. Du nodded and said, of course, if I tell you, it won't have the effect of experience. Master who also wants to test junior sister to see if junior sister can go down the mountain on her own ability. But I see that my junior sister has been wandering around in this mountain several times. I'm afraid she won't be able to complete this task. If the junior sister cannot go down the mountain by herself, then I have to be responsible for leading the junior sister down the mountain. Otherwise, junior sister, think about it, there are very few people in this deep mountain and old forest, why did I happen to appear in front of you? When the other party heard this, he nodded and said, that makes sense. Then, senior brother is really a disciple of the Quanjun sect. It's just that I haven't heard master say it before. Du Yu nodded and said, of course, you are a hermit sect and don't leave the mountain easily. And we are a secular sect, so it is normal that the master rarely mentions it to you. But the world outside is changing with each passing day and has undergone earth-shaking changes. This is why master who is afraid that you won't be able to handle it outside, so he asked me to take care of you. When the other party heard this, he no longer had any doubts and said, then it's up to you, senior brother Lao. Du Yu has also determined in his heart that the woman in front of him is definitely a novice who has never been exposed to modern society. She is so easy to be deceived. At the same time, he secretly felt worried for the girl. It's a good thing you met me. If I go down the mountain and meet someone, such a beautiful girl, I'm afraid she will be tricked into a den of thieves. When the time comes, I might be tricked into going to Burma. I'll be a chicken first, then a slave, and then I'll have to be a kid in the end. I couldn't help complaining in my heart. What kind of sect are you from? Your sect is so unreliable. Your mother should feel free and bold to release such a disciple. Are they here for training, or are they giving people their heads? Forget it, it would be so pitiful for such a beautiful girl to be tricked. Fortunately, I met Heavenly Venerable, a compassionate and rescuing girl in need, so I will be kind enough to take her in. It would be a pity to avoid being kidnapped and tricked into going to a club or something. Thinking of this, Du Yu said, Junior Sister Lingruo, since you have to go down the mountain, you have to listen to me for all arrangements when you go down the mountain. The world under the mountain now is completely different from before, and it is no exaggeration to say that it is extremely dangerous. If you agree, follow me down the mountain. If you don't agree, then go back to the mountain. Upon hearing this, the other party nodded and said, okay, I will listen to my senior brother. At this moment, I heard a grunting sound. Then I saw the girl in front of me showing an expression of acknowledgement, looking very embarrassed. I'm sorry, senior brother. I didn't do it on purpose, I just walked around in the mountains for a long time and haven't eaten for 2 days. Hearing this, Du Yu couldn't help but slap himself in the face. This girl really doesn't look very smart. It would be a miracle if this person could live for more than 3 days after being released. Suddenly, Du Yu felt a heavy burden on his shoulders. He had an urgent sense of responsibility to rescue the girl who was about to lose her footing. No, I have to keep this woman with me at all times from now on. With the way he is, I'm afraid that as soon as he leaves my side, he will be abducted by traffickers. Thinking of this, Du Yu handed the honey in his hand to the other party and said, Junior sister, let's eat some honey first to cushion our stomach. The other party nodded shyly, took the honey from Du Yu, took a look at it, and exclaimed in surprise, 100-year-old honey. Hearing the other party's surprised voice, Du Yu's eyes couldn't help but shrink. The other party actually knew this thing. This made Du Yu even more curious about the other party's identity. This is something given by the system. The magical honey that requires bridling hives is a spiritual thing. Obviously the other party has also seen this thing. It seems that what the system gave me is not completely traceable in the world. Then the girl handed the honey over and said, Brother, this is too precious. I don't dare to accept it casually. Du Yu said, Is it very precious? No, I usually eat it as a snack. After saying that, he pretended to reach into his basket, and then took out a large piece of century-old honey. He looked like he was born in his late teens. Look, junior sister, I still have some with me. Don't be polite to me. Our sect usually only eats this thing for fun. At this moment, Chang Lingruo was completely shocked, her starry eyes widened. Brother, what sect are you from? You actually eat hundreds of flowers' honey every day. Aren't you a big and respectable group in the world? Hearing what the other party said, Du Yu coughed and said, If you want to say that there is a prestigious faction in the world, it can be considered a big one. It's okay not to talk about the glory of the past. I think back then our Quanjun sect's founder, Wang Chongyang, was known as the divine ability among the Eastern evils, Western poisons, Southern emperors and Northern beggars, the first of the 5 unique abilities. Later on, masters like Wang Chui, Chu Chuji, and the Quanjun 7th son came out. It is not an exaggeration to say that we are the largest sect in the world. It's just declined a bit over the years. Now we can only afford the nectar of 100 flowers. In the past, the disciples of our sect ate the nectar of 1,000 flowers. The elders usually drank the nectar of 1,000 flowers. Life is getting harder and harder now. This made Chang Lingruo couldn't help but twitch the corners of her mouth after hearing this. She suddenly had an urge to beat up the senior brother in front of her. She didn't know why, the senior brother in front of her suddenly became so unbeatable. But her hands were itchy and she couldn't help but miss the other person. The other party's current appearance is really indebted. She didn't know that this feeling was called Versailles. She thought to herself, brother, is your sect in decline? You usually eat 100-year-old flower honey as snacks. Is this also in decline? Then what is our sect? Du Yu coughed again, looked at Chang Lingruo and said, Junior sister, hurry up and eat, there is no need to be polite to me. Junior sister's sect doesn't usually eat these things, right? Hearing this, Chang Lingruo felt even more like wanting to beat the other person. But after this feeling emerged, she felt very embarrassed. How should I put it, there is still a sense of guilt. I thought to myself, senior brother kindly invited me to eat century-old honey, but I actually wanted to beat him up. Why am I so indifferent to right from wrong? Aren't I ungrateful? How does master usually teach me? Senior brother, this is also a good intention. He is not clear about the normal situation of our sect, so he speaks like this. There is definitely no malice. So his face turned red with embarrassment and he said with embarrassment, no, senior brother. Our sect, are not as wealthy as you, senior brothers. We can only eat this centuries-old honey like this once a year, and it's only a small bowl or one tail at a time. Hearing this, Du Yu nodded and thought to himself, you got some information out of me again. Then he had an, I understand, expression on his face, patted Chang Lingruo on the shoulder and said, Junior sister, I understand. You have suffered. It's okay, junior sister. Although you won't be able to enjoy popular food and drink spicy food if you follow me in the future, junior sister, I can still afford to support you. After saying that, he broke off a piece of century-old honey and stuffed it into the other person's mouth. He said with a smile, you're welcome, junior sister. You're hungry too. Eat more. Thank you, senior brother. Chang Lingruo ate it deliciously. In an instant, I felt, senior brother is so nice. He is handsome and gentle. He is also very approachable and treats me very well. Well, this experience of going down the mountain doesn't seem to be as hard as master said. After the two of them had eaten, Du Yu took Chang Lingruo for a spin and started going down the mountain. As he walked, he said, Junior sister, you have to listen to me in everything you do when you get off the mountain. You don't know how cunning the people down the mountain are now. If you're not careful, you will be deceived by them, and you will have to count the money after you sell it to them. In order to go down the mountain without being suspected, you will pretend to be my cousin from now on. My identity at the foot of the mountain is that of a fruit farmer in an orchard. You are staying at our house. If others ask, don't reveal the truth. I understand, senior brother. The sound faded away. Soon two people dressed as Taoist priests appeared where they were. One of them had an angry look on his face. Brother, don't stop me, I'm going to kill that kid. Junior sister is too naive and was deceived by the other party. Another person grabbed her and said, what are you doing? Junior sister has grown up in the mountains since she was a child and has never had any contact with the world below. It's normal to be deceived. Don't worry, sooner or later, junior sister will have to go down the mountain to contact people outside. We can't stay in the mountain all our lives. That's fine. If there's someone from the mountain taking care of her, she won't suffer any loss after all. That kid doesn't look like a good guy, but he doesn't look like a bad guy either. With junior sister's pure white appearance, isn't it normal for someone to fool her just after she got off the mountain? As long as he's not a bad person, it's okay. Besides, aren't there two of us following her? If she is really in danger, we will take action. If there is no danger, we will protect it secretly. After hearing this, the young man Daoshi snorted and said, what's the good of staying in the mountains all your life? There are so many people at the bottom of the mountain now. Master is an old fool, too. Junior sister is fine, why should we let her go down the mountain? Another Taoist priest laughed and said, okay, stop complaining. That guy doesn't look like a bad guy. At least he can get something as good as 100-year flower nectar, so our junior sister won't be at a disadvantage. Okay, stop complaining, let's follow him quickly. Du Yu followed Chang Lingruo, becoming more and more surprised. The other party jumped around in the mountains and forests with extraordinary agility, just like a fairy in the woods. It can be seen that the opponent's movement is very flexible and elegant, even with a bit of immortality. This made Du Yu certain that the opponent was definitely good at Qigong, but he relied on his superhuman physical fitness and strong internal strength to chase after him. Not only that, Du Yu could feel a hint of True Chi's internal power as the opponent kept jumping. So, it turns out that there are people in my own world who know martial arts. Maybe there is another side of this world that I never knew before. Chang Lingruo looked back from time to time in front. Brother, follow up quickly. Brother, why are you so slow? This is being looked down upon by a little girl, how can I bear this? Isn't it that the tall image of senior brother that I have finally built up is about to collapse? Du Yu quickly shouted. Junior sister, wait a minute, I didn't eat enough just now and I'm a little hungry. Let's go on our way after I'm full. When Chang Lingruo heard this, she jumped back to him, nodded and said, so that's it. It turns out that senior brother didn't have enough to eat, so no wonder he couldn't catch up with me. I thought that senior brother was not good at lightness kung fu. This is really heartbreaking. This unintentional javelin behavior is the most deadly. So Du Yu opened Xiao Feng's interface while pretending to eat. Just click and steal. Ding, the steal was successful and a status root 5 was obtained. While transmigrating time and space, a status root unexpectedly broke the limit of life and mutated into an 800-year-old status root. In the process, it continued to multiply and evolve, producing 60 status root strains that were more than 500 years old, and more than 1,200. There are more than 100,000 status roots that are more than 100 years old, and more than 100,000 status roots that are more than 10 years old. A status root taken for more than 10 years can effectively prevent influenza, Japanese encephalitis, pneumonia, etc. A status root, which is over a century old, can prevent most popular diseases, prevent and treat most lung diseases, and can cure early-stage lung cancer. A status root, which is over 500 years old, has the effect of clearing the lungs and detoxifying. It can cure all lung diseases including lung cancer and repair damaged lungs. In addition to the above effects, a status root, which is more than 800 years old, also has the function of lung regeneration. As long as no more than 1/3 of the lungs are missing, they can be regenerated within 5 days. Ding, congratulations on getting 5 status root plants that are 800 years old, 60 status root plants that are more than 500 years old, more than 1,200 status root plants that are more than 100 years old, and more than 100,000 status root plants that are more than 10 years old. Ding, congratulations to your friend Xiao Feng for simultaneously obtaining 5 status root plants that are 800 years old, 60 status root plants that are more than 500 years old, more than 1,200 status root plants that are more than 100 years old, and more than 100,000 status root plants that are more than 10 years old. Du Yu was stunned for a moment when he heard this prompt. He knew that what he got this time was extraordinary. Even if he doesn't know much about Chinese herbal medicine, he still knows that a status root is a grass. Generally speaking, grasses are either annual or biennial plants, and perennial herbaceous plants are extremely rare. Before, he accidentally read an encyclopedia and knew that a status root is a biennial herbaceous plant. That is to say, this thing usually only lives for 2 years. The 800-year-old status root has exceeded its life limit by 400 times, so let's just say whether it will survive or not. For this reason, the 800-year-old status root must have become refined. So don't think that the system has rewarded more than 100,000 status root plants that are 10 years old, as if this thing is worthless. Absolutely not. 10 years of a status root has broken the lifespan of this creature by 5 times, and it is also very scary when taken out. It's just that this thing seems to be grass, so it reproduces very quickly. Therefore, they can only reproduce so much when they transmigrate space and time. And in nature, a status root is a Chinese herbal medicine that is widely distributed, easy to live, and has a wide range of medicinal value, but the price is not high. It has the effects of clearing away heat and detoxifying, soothing the throat and reducing swelling. Traditional Chinese medicine mainly treats influenza, Japanese encephalitis, pneumonia, etc. However, this plant is widely distributed and can be found in Southwest Asia, Central Asia, Europe and other places. Not only that, its vitality is very strong. In some countries in Western Europe, it cannot be used as medicine, which has caused it to overrun and is even considered a noxious weed by some Western countries. Therefore, things are more valuable when they are rare. Although it has a wide range of uses, its output is huge, so it is not very valuable. But what do you got was completely different. Asatis root, which is 10 years old, can effectively treat and prevent influenza and pneumonia. In the past 2 years, everyone in the world is aware of the torment caused by pneumonia in various countries. The asatis root grown in these 10 years can effectively prevent and treat various types of pneumonia, and its value is evident. The 10-year-old asatis root has exceeded its life limit, so it grows relatively large. One asatis root can be used as medicine for hundreds of people. At critical moments, this can save tens of millions of lives. Not only that, he can also treat influenza, which is also very important. Influenza is a terrible disease, especially in ancient times, when it was a deadly epidemic. According to many documents, many plagues in ancient times may have been influenza. Influenza may not be the epidemic with the highest fatality rate, but it may be the epidemic with the highest death toll since ancient times. There is a plot like this in many literary works, where a scholar goes to Beijing to take an exam, catches a cold on the way, and then falls ill. This shows how terrifying the cold, which seems like a minor illness today, was in ancient times. To put it bluntly, Xiaofeng was so awesome. If he had caught a cold in ancient times, he might have had to log off early. And it is worth mentioning that humans still have no way to cure colds. The reason why colds are not harmful to human beings today is because during the course of epidemic infections for thousands of years in the past, the human body has already formed antigens against cold viruses. The main function of all current cold medicines is to activate the body's own immune function, relieve the uncomfortable symptoms caused by colds, and then wait for the body itself to kill the cold viruses. It is not a cold virus that is killed by drugs. Therefore, this mutated asatis root is divine medicine for both ancient times and modern times. In ancient times, it was a great medicine that could combat plagues like influenza. For modern times, a drug that can kill cold viruses has finally been released. No matter how you look at it, it's amazing. But you didn't have time to care about this at this time. The centuries-old asatis root certainly surprised him. But he was only surprised for a short while, and then immediately sent a message to Xiaofeng, "Brother Xiao, help me. My little brother is in urgent need of a copy of the secret book of Qinggong. I am waiting online." At this time, Xiaofeng was rushing to Shaoxi Mountain without stopping. He first went to the home of his adoptive father and adoptive mother, and happened to encounter a masked man who wanted to take the lives of his 2 elders. Xiaofeng arrived in time and fought with the masked man, repelling him. Only then did he remember what Du Yu said, that his adoptive parents and mentor were both in danger of death. Thinking of this, he immediately rushed to the place where Master Xuanku was sitting, but he was a step late and the other party had already been attacked. Then he was misunderstood by people from Shaolin Temple as the murderer of Zanku, which was a bit embarrassing. More importantly, he remembered Du Yu's reminder that the person who wanted to kill his adoptive parents and mentor was his biological father Xiao Yuanshan. This made him even more unable to understand why his biological father wanted to kill his adoptive parents and mentor, and also framed him. It happened that I saw the message from Du Yu at this time. He couldn't help being shocked. He thought Du Yu had encountered something and was very nervous. Without saying a word, he clicked to steal Du Yu's pears, and sent over his most profound Qinggong martial arts. Soon Du Yu received the martial arts secret book, Crossing the River with a Reed, from Xiaofeng. This is the most famous Qinggong, one of the 72 unique skills of Shaolin. It is said that it was created by Bodhidharma, who used this light skill to cross the Yangtze River by stepping on reeds. This is much more impressive than floating on water or flying on grass. Floating on water and flying on grass still rely on extremely fast speed to win. But according to legend, Patriarch Bodhidharma crossed the Yangtze River with his feet on reeds and his hands on his back, relaxed and carefree, as if strolling in a courtyard. He was able to lift his body by stepping on a reed without being impatient or impatient. How can this be Qinggong? This is clearly flying with a sword. It's just that what he wields is a sword, and what he wields is a sacrifice. And this unique skill is said to have been lost since Bodhidharma. Although some of the newcomers have practiced this unique skill, they have only scratched the surface of it, and no one has mastered it to achieve its essence. It is estimated that since Bodhidharma, there has never been a cultivator from Shaolin Temple. At this time, do you also saw Xiao Feng's message? What difficulties did the little brother encounter? Is it dangerous? Du Yu quickly replied, Brother Xiao, don't be nervous. There is no danger to your life. It's just that you will lose if you compete with others in Qinggong. Seeing Du Yu's reply, Xiao Feng breathed a sigh of relief, and then asked, That's good. By the way, I have something unclear. Why did my biological father kill my adoptive parents and mentor? My adoptive parents have been kind to me in raising me, and my mentor has been kind to me in educating me. How do I deal with this? I saved my adoptive parents based on your tips, but I didn't have time to save my mentor Zanku. Why would my biological father frame me? Du Yu replied, This question is easy to understand. A man killed your whole family, and then kept your son to raise him. I would like to ask you, does this man have hatred or kindness towards you? Xiao Feng replied, Of course there is a grudge. Du Yu said, Yes. Your father is the one who killed the whole family and raised his son. For him, both the Shaolin Temple and the Central Plains Wulin are his enemies. There's nothing wrong with him wanting revenge, right? Chao Sanwai and his wife are considered innocent. You can save them, which is considered satisfactory. As for Zanku not being saved in time, you don't have to blame yourself. He didn't accept you as his disciple out of any good intentions. He and Xuanxi, the eldest brother who killed your whole family, are fellow apprentices. Do you think that accepting you as a disciple is just a coincidence? No, it is inevitable that he will accept you as a disciple. I'll take you as my apprentice so I can keep an eye on you. If you grow up and want to be in the Central Plains, that's all. If they find something wrong with you during the process, they can get rid of it as soon as possible. At the same time, they also educated you to be interested in the Song dynasty and asked you to join the beggar gang and become a sharp knife against your motherland, Kaidan. My whole family died tragically. My son was raised by the enemy, and he was educated by the enemy to become a person who is against his own country. What Shaolin did was so unethical. After using up the 10 messages, Xiao Feng suddenly became enlightened after reading the messages. I still can't turn around for a while now. I still think about things from the perspective of Chao Feng, the former leader of the beggar clan. The group will be so entangled. But now the entire Central Plains martial arts community calls him a Kaidan dog and no longer regards him as a Song dynasty person. If he thought about it from another angle, from the perspective of being a Kaidan, many problems would be easily solved. During the Battle of Rock Valley, my whole family was killed by the Central Plains masters led by Shaolin Xuanxi, the leader. Although the other party didn't kill him for some unknown reason, he spared his life. However, the other party must be uneasy in his heart, fearing that the grass will grow again if the spring breeze blows but the roots are not removed. So when I was a child, I lived at the foot of Shaoxi Mountain and was adopted by Chao Sanwai and his wife. In fact, he is always under the supervision of Shaolin Temple. At that time, if I had acted slightly inconsistent with Shaolin's wishes, I might have died at the hands of the Shaolin monks. When he grew up, he behaved in line with their wishes, so by chance, he met the Shaolin monk Zanku and was accepted as his disciple. I had never thought about why this was such a coincidence before, but now that I think about it, this is not a coincidence but a special arrangement. Shaolin Master Xuanku is also an accomplished monk in Shaolin Temple. It is not easy for ordinary monks in Shaolin Temple to meet him, and it is not easy for ordinary monks to become his disciple. Why did the other party immediately withdraw his apprenticeship as soon as he fell in love with him? Isn't it just to further bring myself with me so that I can monitor and educate? The education he received since childhood was that the Kaidan people are cruel and inferior to pigs and dogs. The purpose of teaching him martial arts is to let him kill his own people in the future. By the way, the reason why I was able to gain the recognition of Wang Jiantong and become the leader of the beggar clan was because I led the beggar clan to ruin many good things in Kaidan over the years and killed many Kaidan people. Hiding his own life experience, he killed his whole family, but appeared in front of him as a benefactor, so that he could be grateful and help the other party kill his own people. Now that he thought about it, he realized that what Shaolin and the beggar clan did was really not done by humans. In an instant, his entangled mood over Zhang Ku's death was immediately washed away without a trace. At the same time, he also understood the mood of his father Xiao Yuanshan. My family was killed by the enemy, my son was raised by the enemy, and he regarded the thief as his father. He was also given a special skill by his enemy, and he used it to deal with his own people. Could he not hate these people with all his heart? Du Yu is right, only Chao Sanwai and his wife, who are just ordinary farmers and don't know anything, have been really kind to them since childhood and treated them like their own sons. They are truly innocent in this matter. And none of the other people are innocent. Even if they die, they deserve to die. Thinking of this, Xiao Feng's knots in his heart were immediately relieved a lot, and his state of mind became much clearer. He felt that the bottleneck of his martial arts was also faintly touched, and it seemed that he was about to break through to a higher level. Thank you, little brother, for clarifying my doubts. Sir, I don't want to say thank you. I will just speak if I can find anything useful for Xiaofeng in the future. Although I am separated from you by a world, I feel that I have the same temperament with you and become a close friend. I hope that one day we can have a good time over wine. Xiaofeng thanks brother Du Yu for the advice. At this time, Du Yu's spiritual consciousness was in the orchard, using 100 times faster time to start practicing the reed he had just obtained to cross the river. He now has profound skills, and his physical fitness has become far better than ordinary people under the nourishment of many treasures. What he lacks is martial arts and martial arts. As long as he has the corresponding secrets, he will be able to practice quickly. The time after eating 2 pieces of honey was equivalent to the past day in the system orchard. After practicing Qigong almost, Du Yu's consciousness returned to his body, then he clapped his hands and said, "Okay, I'm full. Junior sister, come down the mountain with me." After saying that, he turned around and put his hands behind his back, and with a tap of his feet, he floated 5 or 6 feet away like a light cloud, looking cool and comfortable. Du Yu couldn't help but sigh in his heart. It feels so good to know Qigong, and I can show off. When I don't have Qigong, I run very clumsily and tire like a dog. I don't have the demeanor of a master at first glance. Now that I have mastered Qigong, I can fly a few feet away with just a slight lift of my foot. This person is a master in this world. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.